Picture a shadow so immense and terrifying that it requires the entire planet Earth to simply open its collective eyes wide enough to perceive it. By computationally linking a vast network of scattered radio dishes across continents, humanity has literally forged a singular planetary-scale lens to witness the impossible edge of a supermassive black hole. This colossal unified achievement bridges the immense gap between our fragile spinning world and the darkest, most violent abysses in the modern cosmos. Imagine plunging far beneath the frozen crystalline crust of the globe, desperately seeking a pocket of absolute, crushing silence where the noisy clamour of the surface world is entirely extinguished. Buried miles deep within the vast, unrelenting Antarctic ice sheet, a radically different kind of observatory waits patiently in the pitch black for the ghostly, invisible whispers of the deep universe. Deep within this ancient glacial tomb, the sheer weight of time and nature creates a perfect, heavily shielded sanctuary designed to catch the rarest particles travelling through the void. Surprisingly, the sky directly above us is not a clear window, but a boiling, chaotic ocean of turbulent air that constantly scrambles the ancient light we so desperately wish to see. To completely conquer this atmospheric chaos, brilliant minds have engineered breathtaking, hyper-advanced mirrors that physically deform and ripple thousands of times every single second. If we were to look closer at these robotic eyes, we would witness a silent, continuous mechanical ballet that perfectly counteracts the blurring heavens to reveal the crystal-clear truth of the stars. As these monumental, mind-bending mechanical feet stretch across the globe, allow the sheer scale of these endeavours to softly fade into the quiet, steady rhythm of your own breathing. You're completely safe here in the comfortable, heavy darkness of your room, resting far removed from the freezing subterranean ice, the rapidly warping glass, and the terrifying edge of the cosmic shadows. These monumental wonders are yours to simply inherit as you sleep, forming a grand, beautiful tapestry of human achievement that rests gently at the edges of your relaxing mind. Your profound journey into the quiet dark begins right now, slowly leaving the familiar noisy world behind to scale the absolute highest, most isolated vantage points on our entire planet. We will commence our grand ascent exactly where the atmosphere grows dangerously thin, the earthly sounds completely vanish, and the heavens burn with an unfiltered, piercing brilliance. It is a stark, unforgiving place where humanity first reaches upward into the freezing night, high atop the desolate, wind-scoured peaks of the Chilean Andes. To conquer this atmospheric chaos, this observatory utilizes a breathtaking technology known as adaptive optics. Beneath the primary mirror lies a complex web of computer-controlled actuators that physically deform the glass surface thousands of times every single second. This constant, microscopic warping perfectly mirrors the turbulence of the atmosphere overhead. By bending its own eye to match the rippling sky, the telescope artificially cancels out the blurring effect entirely. The resulting images rival the crystal-clear clarity of telescopes floating in the absolute vacuum of space. It is a silent, ongoing, mechanical ballet performed in the dark, allowing humanity to pierce the veil of our own restless atmosphere. Deep within the cosmos, ancient photons began their journey long before human beings even walked the Earth. These tiny packets of energy have traversed the unimaginably vast freezing voids of interstellar space for millions of years without hitting a single obstacle. They have outrun supernovas, sailed past dark nebulae, and crossed the sprawling gulfs between distant galaxies. As they finally approach our tiny blue planet, they pierce the thin atmospheric boundary in a fraction of a second. Their epic multi-million-year voyage abruptly concludes when they strike the perfectly polished silvered mirrors of a mountaintop observatory. This curved glass acts as a cosmic funnel, capturing and concentrating this ancient light into a single, intensely focused beam. Ultimately, the starlight is directed down into the pitch-black freezing belly of a darkened metal room. Here, sensitive digital sensors absorb the photons, instantly converting their ancient energy into a string of electronic data. A journey spanning eons and spanning entire galactic superclusters ends quietly inside a mechanical shell on a desolate mountain peak. Buried within the lush emerald sinkholes of Puerto Rico, a different kind of eye once turned its gaze toward the heavens. The Arecibo Observatory did not search for the visible light of stars, but instead listened intently for the invisible radio whispers echoing across the universe. Its massive 1,000-foot spherical reflector dish was cradled naturally by the surrounding jungle, forming a startling juxtaposition of raw nature and advanced technology. For decades, this colossal ear stood as humanity's most sensitive instrument for detecting the faint rhythmic pulsing of distant neutron stars. Suspended hundreds of feet above the sweeping metallic bowl, a heavy instrument platform hung from a web of thick steel cables. This suspended receiver would silently track the sky as the Earth rotated beneath it, sweeping across the cosmos to catch fleeting signals. Tragically, the massive structure ultimately succumbed to the unrelenting forces of gravity and time, collapsing violently into the dish below. Even in its current state of ruin, the ghost of Arecibo still represents a golden era of discovery. It remains a powerful testament to our deep, burning desire to listen to the quietest corners of the dark. Piercing the absolute darkness of the mountaintop, a brilliant yellow beam suddenly shoots directly into the night sky. This is not a signal meant for distant alien civilizations, but rather a highly sophisticated laser guide star created to trick the telescope's own computers. The powerful laser strikes a specific layer of sodium atoms suspended high in the Earth's mesosphere, causing them to glow brightly. This artificial glowing dot serves as a perfect localized reference point for the observatory's adaptive optics system. Because scientists know exactly what this artificial star should look like, any flickering or distortion they observe is entirely due to atmospheric turbulence. By rapidly analysing how the laser's light is scrambled on its way back down, the computers calculate the precise atmospheric interference in real time. Armed with this instantaneous data, the telescope's internal mirrors shift and ripple to perfectly counteract the blurring effect. It is a surreal, cyberpunk vision against the backdrop of ancient constellations. We are literally shooting lasers at the sky to force the turbulent atmosphere into sharp, crystalline focus. Rising majestically from the barren volcanic slopes of Mauna Kea in Hawaii, two identical white domes stand like silent sentinels against the sky. The twin Keck observatories are strategically positioned nearly 14,000 feet above sea level, resting in a realm of perpetually thin, freezing air. This extreme elevation is not an accident, but a calculated necessity to escape the thickest, most turbulent layers of the Earth's atmosphere. Operating at this extreme altitude comes with a severe physical cost for the visiting technicians and astronomers who brave the lack of oxygen. Yet, this challenging environment offers the clearest possible window into deep space without having to launch rockets into orbit. It is the absolute limit of where humanity can stand on solid ground and still touch the stars. Surprisingly, not all monumental telescope mirrors are painstakingly ground from solid blocks of heavy glass. The Large Zenith telescope takes an entirely different, almost magical approach to capturing the faint light of distant galaxies. Inside its silo-like enclosure, a wide, shallow basin is filled with a pool of heavy, highly toxic liquid mercury. As powerful motors engage, the entire pool begins to spin at a perfectly constant, meticulously calculated rate of speed. The simple laws of physics take over, forcing the spinning liquid metal to push outward and climb the edges of the container. Within minutes, the centrifugal force shapes the liquid mercury into a flawless, perfectly smooth parabolic dish. This spinning pool of silver acts as an immaculate cosmic mirror, possessing a surface smoother than any glass shaped by human hands. Because it relies entirely on rotation to maintain its shape, this unique telescope can only ever point straight up at the zenith of the sky. It waits patiently for the rotation of the Earth to drag the wonders of the universe directly across its mesmerizing liquid gaze. Hidden away from the starlight, deep within the complex machinery of these observatories, a silent war is constantly waged against heat. Infrared telescopes are specifically designed to see the thermal glow of distant cold objects like dusty stellar nurseries and rogue planets. However, the very metal, glass and electronics of the telescope itself naturally radiate their own blinding thermal energy. If left unchecked, the ambient warmth of the mountaintop and the machinery would completely drown out the faint cosmic signals they are trying to detect. To prevent this, astronomers must plunge the sensitive cameras and optical sensors into a state of extreme, artificial winter. Specialized cooling systems pump liquid nitrogen or pack dry ice tightly around the delicate instrument packages. This intense refrigeration brings the internal components down to temperatures far colder than the most brutal Antarctic blizzards. By freezing its own mechanical heart, the telescope prevents its internal heat from blinding its incredibly sensitive infrared eyes. It is a necessary, freezing sacrifice to peer into the dust-shrouded hidden corners of the vast universe. Far removed from the comforting glow of human civilization, mountaintop observatories exist in a state of profound, absolute isolation. To escape the relentless, blinding light pollution generated by sprawling cities and highways, astronomers must seek out the darkest corners of the globe. These scientific outposts are often perched on jagged, inaccessible peaks, surrounded by nothing but sweeping expanses of rock and snow. When the sun finally sets, the darkness that envelops these facilities is total, heavy, and deeply unnerving to the uninitiated. There are no streetlights, no passing cars, and no distant city glows to dilute the raw, overwhelming brilliance of the Milky Way overhead. The air is dangerously thin, and the freezing winds howl endlessly against the curved metallic shells of the massive protective domes. Operating in these harsh, unforgiving environments requires a deep level of dedication and immense logistical support to keep the facilities running. Yet, this extreme isolation is the only way to preserve the pristine, untainted darkness required to see the faintest objects in the universe. In order to truly understand the cosmos, we must first completely abandon the familiar light of our own world. Despite their monolithic, permanent appearance, the immense glass mirrors at the heart of these observatories are surprisingly fragile and demand constant, meticulous care. Over time, the microscopically thin layer of reflective aluminum on the surface degrades, tarnished by exposure to the high-altitude air and inevitable settling dust. A dull mirror is practically useless to an astronomer, making the perilous process of recoating an absolute, unavoidable necessity. Periodically, the massive glass monoliths, often weighing tens of tons, must be carefully detached from their cradles and lowered into the bowels of the facility. They are sealed inside colossal vacuum chambers where all the air is violently pumped out to simulate the emptiness of deep space. Inside this void, tiny coils of pure aluminum are electrically vaporized, filling the chamber with a cloud of floating metal atoms. This metallic mist slowly rains down upon the curved glass, depositing a fresh, perfect layer of silver that is only a few atoms thick. It is a nerve-wracking, high-stakes procedure where a single mistake could shatter a priceless, irreplaceable instrument. Through this delicate metallurgical rebirth, the telescope's flawless vision is temporarily restored, ready to catch ancient photons once again. As the intense high-altitude sun finally dips below the jagged horizon, a palpable sense of anticipation fills the freezing air inside the dome. The rhythmic, heavy mechanical hum grows louder as the massive gear systems awaken, preparing to expose the telescope to the encroaching night. Slowly, with a deep, resonating groan of stressed metal, the colossal shutters of the dome begin to slide apart. This dramatic parting of the metallic ceiling reveals a pristine, staggering slice of the Milky Way, glittering intensely in the thin mountain atmosphere. The massive telescope, which has been blindly resting in the shadows all day, finally stares upward into the sprawling cosmic ocean. Starlight instantly floods into the darkened chamber, bouncing off the pristine mirrors and funneling down into the waiting digital sensors. It is the culmination of immense human effort, engineering and patience, all converging in this single quiet moment of twilight opening. For the next several hours, until the dawn eventually threatens to return, this giant mechanical eye will silently drink in the secrets of the universe. The night's vital observational work has officially begun, connecting this isolated mountain peak to the absolute edge of time. While terrestrial facilities nervously race against the approaching dawn, at the absolute edge of time, other magnificent drifting sentinels have purposefully abandoned the comforting embrace of Earth entirely, floating completely free of our planet's turbulent, boiling atmosphere to gaze steadily outward into the eternal, unchanging cosmic night, a realm where time itself seems to stand perfectly still. This glorious silent isolation deep within the frigid, unforgiving vacuum of space allows the massive orbital observatory to capture staggering monumental images with perfect, breathtaking clarity that ground-based installations can only ever dream of matching, remaining entirely unburdened by the thick, shimmering ocean of air that naturally scrambles, absorbs and distorts the delicate, ancient starlight travelling toward us from the very dawn of time itself. Suspended effortlessly in the absolute frictionless void of low orbit, this colossal mechanical eye stares deeply into the sprawling cosmic ocean without ever needing to blink or look away, offering humanity a pristine, flawless window into the deepest, oldest corners of creation, while remaining completely, serenely detached from the messy, vibrant and relentlessly storm-battered world, spinning endlessly hundreds of miles beneath its reflective metallic belly, a silent guardian of the infinite. Despite its seemingly serene, peaceful and utterly motionless appearance in iconic photographs, this colossal scientific instrument is actually hurtling blindly through the dark vacuum at a truly terrifying, almost incomprehensible velocity of 5 miles every single second, a pace that makes the fastest human aircraft seem completely frozen in place. By constantly, relentlessly falling forward around the gentle curvature of our fragile blue planet, the massive telescope manages to complete a full, sweeping journey around the entire globe every 95 minutes, travelling significantly faster than a fired rifle bullet, in a perpetual, silent and entirely frictionless freefall, perfectly orchestrated by Earth's inescapable gravitational pull, surfing the invisible contours of space-time. During this incredibly rapid, dizzying transit, sprawling green continents, vast blue oceans, and violently swirling white storm systems blur past beneath its reflective underside in a continuous, mesmerizing terrestrial parade, creating a bizarre, violently accelerated experience of time where the Sentinel plunges completely into freezing, absolute orbital darkness and bursts back into blinding, unfiltered stellar daylight over a dozen times in a single standard day. As you lie perfectly still in the safety of your room, feeling the gentle, comforting and rhythmic rise and fall of your resting chest, carefully consider the sheer, terrifying peril required to maintain these delicate orbital instruments when they inevitably succumb to microscopic mechanical failures in an environment that inherently despises human life. Shortly after its triumphant and highly publicized initial launch, devastated astronomers discovered a microscopic, infinitesimal manufacturing flaw in the primary mirror that tragically rendered the highly anticipated initial images frustratingly blurry, threatening to turn a monumental triumph into a highly embarrassing, catastrophic failure that ultimately necessitated one of the most daring, complex and incredibly high-stakes orbital rescue missions ever attempted by human beings. Courageous astronauts travelled high into the freezing, deadly and entirely unforgiving vacuum, donning heavy, pressurized suits to perform grueling, nerve-wracking spacewalks far outside the fragile safety of their orbiting space shuttle, manually installing delicate corrective optics with their own thickly gloved hands to act as brave orbital optometrists and successfully grant the multi-billion-dollar machine the sharp, absolutely flawless vision it desperately needed to finally begin rewriting our fundamental understanding of the universe, proving our resilience in the face of the void. Powering these massive, incredibly sophisticated, and perpetually watching mechanical eyes requires an endless, perfectly reliable, and completely renewable source of energy in a desolate, isolated realm where traditional chemical fuel cannot ever be easily delivered or efficiently stored, leaving these machines entirely dependent on the cosmos itself. Brilliant, dangerously unfiltered sunlight naturally and beautifully glints off the sprawling, glowing golden solar arrays that stretch proudly outward from the main cylindrical body of the telescope, like delicate, translucent metallic wings, constantly harvesting the raw, punishing radiation of our local star and instantly converting it directly into the vital, humming and invisible lifeblood of electricity, ensuring the mechanical heart continues to beat. Because of its incredibly rapid, unending orbit, the observatory repeatedly and violently crosses the stark, highly defined day-night terminator line, forcing the fragile, degrading panels to aggressively soak up enough extreme thermal energy during the brief, blinding orbital day to successfully charge the massive internal batteries that will tirelessly keep the essential computers actively thinking and the protective thermal blankets sufficiently warm throughout the paralyzing, deep and absolute freeze of the impending orbital night, a terrifying plunge into absolute sunless zero where only stored warmth guarantees survival. When gazing intensely and patiently at a single, incredibly faint and ghostly galaxy sitting billions of light-years away, even the slightest, most microscopic vibration or infinitesimal physical drift would completely and utterly ruin the painstakingly gathered, impossibly delicate long-exposure photograph. To actively and continuously combat this unforgiving physical reality, a complex, incredibly heavy network of rapidly spinning gyroscopes hums internally deep within the dark, shielded metal chassis of the spacecraft, silently utilizing the fundamental, unbreakable laws of angular momentum to firmly and perfectly anchor the massive school bus-sized telescope in the completely frictionless, endlessly empty void, fighting the subtle tugs of gravity with pure rotational force. By precisely, meticulously and constantly varying the speed of these heavy internal momentum wheels, the observatory can smoothly pivot and solidly lock onto an unimaginably distant target with microscopic, flawless precision, easily maintaining its unblinking, perfectly stable stare at a single, tiny pinpoint of light for uninterrupted days or even weeks at a time, without ever drifting a fraction of a millimeter off its chosen celestial mark, effectively turning a hurtling cylinder into the most stable platform ever constructed. Let the heavy, deeply comforting weight of your tired limbs sink even deeper into the soft mattress, safely and fully embracing the quiet, steady gravity that gently anchors you to the earth, resting far away from the violently churning invisible extremes of the high-energy universe, where matter is constantly torn apart and violently reborn. While some dedicated orbital watchers patiently and quietly look for the familiar, comforting, visible glow of ancient burning stars, the highly specialized Chandra X-ray Observatory completely ignores ordinary starlight, purposefully tuning its unique, heavy metallic vision specifically to the fierce, chaotic and utterly deadly radiation emitted by the superheated, mangled remnants of violently exploded suns, capturing the screams of dying stars rather than their gentle, living light. Because these incredibly energetic, wildly destructive X-rays easily and effortlessly penetrate right through ordinary traditional glass mirrors, this specialized telescope must ingeniously use heavy, barrel-shaped cylinders nested tightly within one another, physically forcing the high-energy photons to graze the slick, hyper-polished metallic sides at extremely shallow angles, skipping smoothly along the mirrored surface exactly like a flat stone skipped across a still pond, until they are safely and carefully funneled down to the awaiting electronic sensors, transforming deadly radiation into breathtaking, colourful maps of cosmic devastation. Long before they ever face their fiery, carefully planned atmospheric demise, these silently drifting heroic sentinels must bravely and continuously endure a constant, entirely invisible pelting from the cold, uncaring cosmos itself, a silent war waged against the fabric of the universe. The seemingly empty, perfectly peaceful vacuum of low Earth orbit is actually densely filled with millions of tiny, hypervelocity fragments of ancient comet dust and jagged, tumbling asteroid debris, stray micrometeorites that occasionally and violently ping against the protective outer baffling of the telescopes while travelling at terrifying speeds that completely and thoroughly defy standard human comprehension, turning microscopic dust into lethal armour-piercing ammunition. Even a tiny, practically microscopic particle, the exact size of a single grain of sand, carries immense, entirely devastating kinetic energy when it impacts a solid aluminum surface at 20,000 miles per hour, leaving tiny, jagged, and permanently scarred microscopic craters scattered across the metallic shells as a continuous slow-motion cosmic sandblasting that quietly, methodically, erodes the once pristine surfaces of our absolute most advanced technological achievements, a humbling reminder that space is never truly empty, but constantly swirling with the ancient wreckage of creation. Notice the incredibly gentle, remarkably slow rise and fall of your relaxed chest in the quiet room, a steady, perfectly rhythmic biological cycle that beautifully and poetically mirrors the silent, continuous transmission of cosmic data across the unimaginably empty void, connecting your resting body to the furthest reaches of the unknown. Gathering the ancient, incredibly faint light of the deep universe is truly only half the astronomical battle. The magnificent, mind-bending and historically significant images captured by these floating orbital eyes must somehow find their way back home, prompting the telescopes to meticulously translate the awe-inspiring beauty of distant galaxies into long, invisible and highly compressed streams of pure, perfect digital radio code, a mathematical language that bridges the immense gap between human minds and the cold vacuum. This precious, incredibly hard-won scientific data is then beamed directly down toward the Earth in focused, entirely invisible radio waves that easily and effortlessly pierce straight through the thick, swirling weather clouds, where massive waiting receiver dishes scattered strategically across the globe pivot their giant metal faces upward to perfectly catch the silent broadcast, instantly plucking the faint radio whispers out of the sky and safely securing a photograph taken in the freezing vacuum onto glowing, humming computer servers down on the warm, heavily inhabited surface, allowing anyone with a screen to instantly witness the breathtaking majesty of the deep cosmos from the safety of their home. Perhaps the absolute most profound, undeniably game-changing advantage of permanently placing these delicate, incredibly expensive instruments in the dark void is the absolute, entirely unbroken, and seemingly eternal continuity of their deep, piercing cosmic gaze, untethered from the chaotic, swirling weather systems that plague our terrestrial home. Ground-based astronomers must constantly, highly frustratingly negotiate with the wildly unpredictable local weather, frequently losing precious, completely irreplaceable viewing time to sudden, violent rainstorms, thick, blinding atmospheric fog, or simply a hazy, overly turbulent atmosphere that completely and utterly ruins the precise focus of their giant silvered mirrors, reducing brilliant minds to patiently waiting for the wind to simply change direction. Orbiting peacefully and silently far above the absolute highest, wispiest weather clouds means these revolutionary space telescopes literally never have to wait for a clear, crisp night to boldly begin their vital, history-making observational work, allowing humanity to fully abandon the comforting safety of the Earth in order to build a permanent, perfectly clear window that never fogs, never closes, and never blinks, ensuring the magnificent, profoundly important work of watching the absolute fading edges of the deep cosmos simply never, ever has to stop, securing our permanent, unflinching foothold in the heavens. To properly and safely maintain this permanent, unflinching foothold in the heavens, humanity's most profoundly ambitious, meticulously crafted, and intricately engineered mechanical creations must purposefully venture far beyond the crowded, chaotic, and relentlessly noisy orbits immediately surrounding our vibrant, weather-beaten terrestrial home, purposefully seeking out a profound, entirely undisturbed state of absolute, freezing cosmic isolation. Travelling an unimaginably vast, deeply lonely, and utterly terrifying distance that completely and utterly dwarfs the furthest, most desolate reaches of our own barren moon, this magnificent, incredibly heavy flagship observatory rests perfectly and permanently balanced in a unique, highly specific invisible gravitational sweet spot where the immense competing pulling forces of the massive Earth and the distant Sun beautifully cancel each other out to create a surprisingly stable, impossibly quiet pocket in the very fabric of space-time. Here, locked forever in a delicate, incredibly complex and entirely silent eternal cosmic dance, the massive orbital eye exists in a surreal, unchanging and highly dramatic state of perpetual unbroken twilight, permanently turning its heavily shielded, highly protected back to the blinding, searing glare of our local star so it may stare relentlessly, patiently, and without any interruption whatsoever into the deep, endless and utterly freezing dark of the uncharted cosmos. Rather than relying on the traditional incredibly heavy, fundamentally thick and inherently fragile glass monoliths that traditionally anchor our sprawling, oxygen-starved terrestrial mountaintop facilities, this drifting, completely silent deep space watcher utilizes a spectacularly beautiful, sprawling array of incredibly lightweight, ultra-strong beryllium metal, painstakingly and meticulously forged into a massive, intricately perfectly aligned honeycomb pattern. Each of these precisely machined, flawlessly polished and highly distinct hexagonal segments is completely and utterly coated in a microscopic, atom-thin layer of real, incredibly pure gold, purposefully chosen not for its earthly material wealth, profound historical significance, or gleaming aesthetic beauty, but strictly and exclusively for its absolute, completely unmatched physical ability to perfectly and efficiently reflect highly elusive, vanishingly faint infrared radiation. This breathtaking, brilliantly glowing and deeply mesmerizing golden mirror array acts as an impossibly sensitive, utterly revolutionary cosmic thermal camera, specifically and brilliantly designed to successfully catch the faintest, most unimaginably distant heat signatures, lingering quietly in the absolute freezing void, literally allowing human beings to essentially perceive the incredibly faint, fading thermal warmth of original creation itself rippling across the sprawling, silent and endlessly expanding gulfs of incredibly deep time. Feel the steady, beautifully calming and highly rhythmic warmth of your own pulse radiating softly beneath your resting skin, a deeply comforting, endlessly renewing biological heat that stands in stark, absolute and completely terrifying contrast to the unforgiving, utterly lethal and profoundly deep chill fundamentally required to observe the deepest, most thoroughly hidden layers of the universe. To actively and continuously protect its hypersensitive, profoundly delicate golden eyes from the destructive, utterly blinding heat naturally radiating from the roaring sun, the glowing earth, and the pale, reflective moon. The drifting telescope gracefully deployed a massive, incredibly complex sunshield, roughly the exact dimensions of a regulation terrestrial tennis court, carefully unfolding 5 distinct microscopically thin layers of specialized silvered plastic directly into the completely frictionless, deeply terrifying void. This sprawling, deeply elegant and completely essential kite-like parasol permanently and flawlessly blocks the searing, continuous solar radiation, creating an incredibly localized, deeply permanent shadow that purposefully keeps the delicate optical instruments continuously chilling at temperatures far more brutal, severe and deeply extreme than the frozen, entirely desolate and incredibly lonely surface of distant Pluto, ensuring the machine's own ambient mechanical warmth never ever interferes with its flawless, hypersensitive cosmic vision. Throughout the sprawling, beautifully violent and endlessly churning galactic disk, immense, incredibly chaotic, and deeply beautiful nebulas of thick, entirely opaque interstellar dust act as colossal, completely impenetrable cosmic curtains, successfully blocking ordinary visible light and safely, perfectly hiding the universe's most profound, highly energetic and completely vital creation processes from our curious, intensely staring terrestrial gaze. By fundamentally shifting its mechanical perspective to view the cosmos exclusively through the highly specialized, profoundly revealing lens of long-wavelength infrared light, these highly advanced, deeply cooled sensors possess the seemingly magical, entirely uncanny, and utterly transformative ability to pierce straight through these dense, swirling pillars of cosmic ash and gas without suffering any visual distortion or blurring whatsoever. Deep within these previously hidden, profoundly shadowy, and highly mysterious stellar nurseries, profoundly astonished astronomers can now clearly, vividly, and perfectly witness the violent, breathtaking exact moments when incredibly tight, rapidly collapsing knots of heavy gas finally ignite into brilliant, blazing baby stars, intensely illuminating the dark, protective caverns of their own violent birth with their very first screaming and beautifully chaotic bursts of unbridled nuclear fusion. Surprisingly, the fundamental underlying fabric of the entire universe itself is not a static, rigidly unchanging stage, but is instead continuously, violently, and completely expanding in absolutely all directions, relentlessly pulling the very galaxies away from one another at truly mind-bending, incredibly terrifying, and ever-accelerating speeds that continually and completely defy fundamental human intuition, as the brilliant, completely ordinary visible light originally emitted by the absolute oldest, first stars travels across this rapidly expanding, physically stretching, and entirely elastic canvas of space-time over the unbelievably long course of billions of years. Its physical wavelength is literally pulled and permanently elongated into much longer, completely invisible infrared waves by the exact time it finally, gently washes over our distant, heavily populated solar system. This profound, deeply unsettling and completely transformative physical phenomenon, widely known in astrophysics as cosmological redshift, heavily dictates that to successfully see the earliest, most ancient visible events in all of recorded cosmic history, we are paradoxically completely forced to build highly specialized instruments that completely ignore the visible spectrum entirely, blindly feeling instead for the stretched, fading, and incredibly ancient thermal echoes of a distant, completely unreachable past. Notice how the cool, incredibly refreshing air in your quiet room gently, effortlessly, and reliably fills your expanding lungs with each deeply relaxed breath, representing a continuous, endlessly renewable, and profoundly comforting biological resource that sharply and tragically contrasts the strictly finite, deeply precious, and entirely doomed lifelines granted to the earlier generations of freezing orbital explorers. Operating completely alone and entirely isolated far from the massive sprawling golden honeycomb of its modern, vastly more complex successor, the pioneering Spitzer Space Telescope bravely and brilliantly established the incredibly difficult, highly technical art of deep space thermal imaging, but it completely and utterly relied on a heavy onboard tank of ultra-cold liquid helium to artificially freeze its highly sensitive internal optics down to necessary, highly precise operational levels. For many incredibly productive, utterly groundbreaking years, this remarkable, utterly dedicated and highly successful machine slowly and inevitably bled its precious freezing coolant out into the empty, uncaring void to perfectly maintain its incredibly sharp vision, perfectly aware that once the final, microscopic and highly critical drop of helium finally boiled completely away, the rapidly warming telescope would instantly go blind to the deepest mysteries of the universe, tragically transforming into a drifting, unseeing and completely helpless ghost lost in the infinite dark. The sheer, almost incomprehensible, and utterly staggering physical sensitivity of these freezing, deeply isolated and highly specialized thermal instruments clearly reveals exactly why they can never, ever be safely approached, actively maintained, or even physically touched by living, breathing and inherently warm astronauts bravely venturing into the freezing, completely unyielding dark void. If a living, heavily trained human being were to somehow miraculously drift anywhere near the highly unshielded, deeply freezing optical sensors, the simple, entirely ordinary, and beautifully comforting biological heat radiating directly from their heavily pressurized, highly complex spacesuit would immediately appear as an overwhelmingly brilliant, entirely blinding, and completely destructive inferno of energetic light to the delicate, deeply cooled detectors. The very warmth of human blood rapidly and continuously circulating through living, beating veins would completely and utterly drown out the incredibly faint, ghostly, and incredibly ancient whispers of distant forming galaxies, definitively proving that to truly and clearly observe the absolute coldest, oldest, and most utterly silent corners of the cosmos, humanity must completely, entirely, and without exception remove its own fiery, noisy, and living biological presence from the delicate, almost sacred act of looking into the abyss. Returning your deep focus to the sprawling, highly iconic golden array of the modern astronomical era. The massive, perfectly aligned and deeply complex honeycomb structure is not actually a single, strictly rigid and permanently fused piece of solid metal, but is instead a living, breathing and highly dynamic mechanical puzzle entirely capable of continuous, incredibly microscopic and utterly flawless autonomous self-correction. Hidden entirely in the freezing pitch-black shadows directly behind the gleaming, perfectly gold-plated and highly polished tiles lies an intricate, highly complex and utterly revolutionary network of tiny, highly responsive mechanical actuators, constantly pushing, pulling, and subtly warping the fragile beryllium segments with absolute, completely mind-bending and entirely unprecedented subatomic precision. This slow, methodical, highly calculated and entirely invisible flexing consistently ensures the highly separate, distinct, and highly individual hexagonal pieces continuously act as one single, flawless, and perfectly unified parabolic surface, beautifully performing an autonomous, incredibly slow motion and deeply silent mechanical ballet that perfectly compensates for the extreme, agonizing, and constantly fluctuating temperature shifts of deep space without ever requiring a single ounce of direct human intervention. Allow your increasingly tired, incredibly relaxed mind to completely drift back to a terrifying, highly chaotic and deeply alien time long before the Earth ever formed, well before our local sun ever ignited, and well before the heavy, highly complex elements that currently make up your very living bones were ever violently forged in the silent, swirling cosmic dark. By staring relentlessly, unflinchingly, and completely unblinkingly into the deepest, seemingly emptiest, and darkest patches of the absolute black sky, these freezing, completely isolated and highly advanced observatories are successfully capturing the incredibly faint, reddish, and deeply ancient dying embers of the very first generation of massive primordial stars to ever violently ignite shortly after the explosive foundational dawn of the universe itself. These absolute, utterly terrifying cosmic behemoths, composed entirely of pure, completely uncontaminated primordial hydrogen and helium, lived incredibly short, furiously violent, and completely explosive lives before detonating in spectacular, ancient, and highly destructive supernovas, and the stretched, completely exhausted ghosts of their final screaming light are only just now gently washing over our golden mirrors after travelling silently and uninterrupted through the totally empty void for over 13 billion staggering years. Much closer to our own sprawling, deeply familiar galactic neighbourhood, these hypersensitive, incredibly cold-dwelling sentinels do not just blindly look at ancient dying stars, but rather wait incredibly patiently for the highly subtle, totally fleeting, and profoundly revealing shadows cast by entirely unseen, highly mysterious alien worlds passing quietly in the dark. When a distant, entirely unknown exoplanet slowly, predictably, and perfectly transits directly in front of its brilliant, highly blinding host star, a microscopic, incredibly precious, and highly revealing fraction of the blazing starlight filters gently through the planet's thin, alien, and completely unbreathed atmosphere, before continuing its long, entirely uninterrupted journey toward our waiting, heavily shielded, freezing detectors. By meticulously, heavily, and incredibly carefully analysing exactly which specific colours of invisible light are missing from the received deeply filtered beam, brilliant terrestrial astronomers can accurately read the exact, highly specific chemical fingerprints left behind by atmospheric gases like water vapour, methane, or completely alien carbon dioxide, literally allowing us to mathematically and observationally taste the air of strange, entirely unreachable, and highly fascinating worlds trillions of miles away. Deep within the parched, silence-heavy plains of high-altitude deserts, massive fields of bone-white parabolic antennas stand as synthetic forests of steel, reaching out for signals sent from trillions of miles away. Unlike the glass eyes of optical telescopes, these structures move in a perfect, eerie, and highly synchronized unison that feels more like a slow-motion ritual than a standard mechanical process. Even under the harsh, blinding glare of the midday sun, they stare with a singular blank intensity at the blue sky, ignoring the brilliance of our local star to catch the invisible, much longer wavelengths of the deep cosmos. This mechanical choreography is directed by a central humming computer system that ensures every dish, regardless of its position in the field, is pointed at the exact same infinitesimal patch of the void. By combining their collective surface area, they act as a single colossal ear, listening to the silent whispers of celestial objects that reside in the furthest reaches of the unknown. The quiet, ceaseless static they collect is the only evidence of a universe that is far louder and more active than our limited human senses could ever possibly perceive. This data is instantly translated into complex digital streams, flowing like invisible water through fibre optic veins buried deep beneath the desert sand. Each antenna acts as a tiny part of a much larger whole, contributing its specific piece of the cosmic puzzle to the waiting scientists. It is a testament to human ingenuity that we have built these giants to hear the silence of the stars while the world around them remains blissfully unaware of the ancient stories being told in the radio spectrum. This structural marvel in the high desert of New Mexico functions on a scale that feels almost architectural, utilizing a network of heavy-duty railroad tracks that sprawl across the landscape like a massive geometric star. Each of the 27 enormous 100-ton dishes is mounted on its own specialized transporter, allowing engineers to physically reposition the entire array into different configurations depending on the scientific goal of the night. When the antennas are clustered tightly together, the observatory acts like a wide-angle lens, capturing broad, sweeping panoramas of the radio sky. Conversely, by slowly moving these metal giants miles apart along the desert floor, the array's resolution is dramatically sharpened, allowing it to zoom in on the finest, most intricate details of distant nebulae. The slow, grinding movement of these multi-ton structures across the ancient dusty soil is a testament to the sheer physical effort required to expand our perception of reality. It is a landscape transformed into a giant, reconfigurable scientific instrument that can change its very shape to better suit the mysteries it seeks to unravel. The rhythmic clanking of steel wheels on iron rails echoes through the basin, a mechanical heartbeat that precedes the discovery of new worlds. This physical flexibility allows the array to investigate everything from the birth of stars to the violent interactions of entire galactic clusters. It stands as a bridge between the heavy industrial weight of human machinery and the weightless, invisible waves of the deep, echoing cosmos. If we were to look closer at the invisible signals these metal giants harvest, we would find that they are fundamentally different from the dancing, vibrant photons captured by silvered mirrors. These sensors record the exceptionally long, gentle radio waves emitted by vast, dark clouds of cold hydrogen gas that permeate the interstellar medium. Hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, the raw building block of every star and galaxy, yet it often remains completely dark and invisible to even the most powerful optical telescopes. By tuning into the specific 21 centimeter radio frequency of this neutral gas, astronomers can map the structural skeleton of entire galaxies, tracing the elegant, spiraling arms of our cosmic neighborhood. It is a form of cartography that relies on the subtle hum of atomic transitions rather than the glare of nuclear fusion. Through these radio maps, we can finally visualize the cold, silent scaffolding that holds the luminous parts of the universe together. This mapping reveals the hidden rivers of gas that flow between stars, feeding the fires of creation and marking the boundaries of the dark. The radio waves tell a story of a universe that is mostly composed of these quiet, cold reservoirs of potential life. We are essentially eavesdropping on the foundational matter of the cosmos, seeing the invisible architecture that provides the stage for the rest of existence. As your body rests in the quiet stillness of your room, the air around you seems empty and silent, yet it is actually saturated with an invisible, ancient chatter that has been travelling since the very beginning of time. Incredibly, a small but significant fraction of the black and white static you might remember hearing on an untuned analog television is actually caused by the remnant radio echoes of the universe's explosive birth. About 1% of that flickering snowy noise is the interference caused by the cosmic microwave background radiation, the oldest light in existence, which has been stretched by the expansion of space into the radio spectrum. This ancient signal is a literal fossil of the Big Bang, a ghostly hiss that has filled every corner of reality for nearly 14 billion years. It is a staggering realization that the mundane electronics in our living rooms were accidentally eavesdropping on the creation of the cosmos. Every time a television was turned to a dead channel, it was witnessing the fading afterglow of the moment everything began. The data streams derived from this static allow us to construct the most accurate maps of the early universe ever conceived. They reveal the tiny microscopic fluctuations in density that eventually grew into the massive clusters of galaxies we see today. You are surrounded at all times by the dying echoes of the greatest explosion in history, a silent symphony of the past that never truly stops playing. Surprisingly, the universe is not just a place of slow, ancient echoes, but also one of sudden, violent, and entirely mysterious flashes that defy easy explanation. Fast radio bursts are intense, millisecond-long pulses of high-energy radio waves that streak across the cosmos from galaxies located halfway across the observable universe. These events are so fleeting and unpredictable that they were long dismissed as mere glitches or terrestrial interference until vigilant, automated arrays began catching them with increasing frequency. In the tiny blink of an eye, a single one of these bursts can release more energy than our sun emits in an entire year, yet they vanish so quickly that they leave no trace in the visible or infrared spectra. Scientists remain deeply puzzled by their origin, speculating that they might be the result of colliding neutron stars or the intense magnetic outbursts of hyperdense magnetars. They are the cosmic equivalent of a lightning strike in a darkened room, revealing a hidden, energetic world for a fraction of a second. Tracking these flashes requires a constant, unblinking vigilance from radio telescopes that scan the entire horizon at all times. Each capture provides a new piece of evidence in a mystery that is currently one of the most exciting frontiers in all of modern astrophysics. We are listening to the heartbeat of a universe that can produce unimaginable power in the shortest possible amount of time. Deep within the heart of our own galaxy lies a region so shrouded in dense, choking clouds of interstellar dust that it remains a complete and total mystery to any instrument relying on visible light. These thick cosmic veils act like a permanent opaque wall, effectively hiding the chaotic and violent centre of the Milky Way from our curious eyes. However, long radio waves possess a unique and incredibly powerful physical property that allows them to pass effortlessly through these obstacles, sliding between the dust particles like water through a sieve. By harnessing these penetrating signals, radio observatories can peer directly into the galactic core, revealing the frantic, circular motion of stars dancing around an invisible, gravitational monster. This is how we first confirmed the existence of Sagittarius A star, the supermassive black hole that anchors our entire galactic home. Without the ability to listen to these radio whispers, the very heart of our galaxy would remain forever locked behind a dark, impenetrable curtain. The radio signals from this region reveal the intense magnetic fields and the spiraling paths of matter being consumed by the black hole. It is a view of our home that is both terrifying and beautiful, showing the extreme forces that keep the galaxy in balance. We are finally able to see the engine that drives the rotation of our entire stellar neighbourhood, thanks to the persistence of these invisible waves. While your limbs remain heavy and your breath slows, consider the sheer, monumental scale of a structure so vast that it requires the very anatomy of the Earth to support its weight. The 500-metre aperture spherical telescope is built directly into a deep, natural limestone sinkhole in the remote, karst mountains of southwest China. By utilising the planet's own geography to cradle its colossal, half-mile-wide reflector dish, engineers avoided the impossible task of building a support structure capable of holding such an immense weight against the wind. The dish is composed of thousands of individual triangular panels that can be subtly adjusted to track celestial targets as they drift overhead. This gargantuan metal bowl is so large that it could theoretically hold 2 entire aircraft carriers inside its rim. It represents the ultimate fusion of geology and technology, a human-made eye nestled into a natural depression in the Earth's crust, staring fixedly at the zenith. The sensitivity of this instrument is so profound that it can detect the faint radio emissions from pulsars located thousands of light-years away. It sits in a valley of silence, protected by the surrounding mountains from the radio noise of the modern world. It is a masterpiece of architectural integration, turning a hole in the ground into the most powerful radio ear on the planet. Across the vast, silent stretches of the intergalactic void, some galaxies act as colossal cosmic beacons, announcing their presence through massive eruptions of energy. At the centres of these active galaxies, supermassive black holes devour vast amounts of gas and dust that spiral inward at nearly the speed of light. During this process, incredible magnetic forces twist and compress the infalling matter, spewing twin jets of superheated plasma that roar outward into the void. These jets can stretch for millions of light-years, carving enormous cavities into the surrounding gas and glowing with an intense, unmistakable brilliance in the radio spectrum. Although the black holes themselves emit no light, these massive radiant plumes act as glowing signs of the invisible giants lurking at their source. To a radio telescope, these active galaxies appear not as simple points of light, but as sprawling, magnificent structures of energy that define the large-scale architecture of the cosmos. They represent some of the most powerful and persistent energy sources in the entire known universe. By studying the structure and movement of these jets, we can learn about the fundamental nature of gravity and the life cycles of entire galaxies. They are the roaring exhaust of the universe's most efficient and terrifying engines, visible only to those who listen. Capturing these invisible radio whispers is a task that produces such a staggering, overwhelming volume of raw digital data that no single human mind or standard machine could ever hope to process it. To achieve the resolution necessary to see the fine details of distant black holes, astronomers use a technique called very long baseline interferometry, which mathematically links antennas separated by thousands of miles. By synchronizing these far-flung dishes with atomic clocks, they create a virtual telescope that is effectively as large as the entire Earth itself. This process requires massive, humming supercomputers to meticulously stitch together the separate data streams, correlating the exact time every single radio wave struck each individual dish. The resulting digital information is so dense that it is often faster to physically ship hard drives across the globe via airplane than to attempt to transmit it over the internet. It is a triumph of computational power over the vast distances of our planet, turning a scattered network into a singular eye. The resulting images are the product of trillions of calculations, a mathematical reconstruction of a reality we cannot see directly. Each pixel in a radio image is the result of thousands of hours of work by both humans and machines. It is the most complex form of photography ever attempted, a global effort to visualize the invisible foundations of the stars. As you surrender to the quiet peace of your surroundings, the silence sought by these radio observatories is a fragile, easily shattered state that must be protected with absolute unwavering vigilance. The cosmic signals they detect are so vanishingly faint that the tiny, almost imperceptible electronic hum of a nearby microwave oven can completely drown out the roar of a distant quasar. Even the brief, mundane pulse of a single passing cell phone or a faulty spark plug in a nearby car can create enough radio noise to ruin an entire night of delicate observations. Because of this extreme sensitivity, these facilities are often surrounded by vast radio quiet zones where all wireless technology is strictly and legally forbidden. Astronomers once spent months puzzled by a mysterious recurring radio signal, only to eventually discover it was caused by the door of a break-room microwave being opened while it was still running. It is a humbling reminder that our modern, noisy and technologically saturated lives are constantly shouting over the ancient, delicate whispers of the stars. Maintaining this silence is a constant battle against the encroachment of human progress and communication. Every satellite that passes overhead and every radio tower in the distance represents a potential source of interference for these delicate ears. We must carefully carve out pockets of absolute silence on our loud planet if we wish to continue hearing the stories told by the rest of the universe. To find the ultimate pockets of absolute silence, we must descend far beneath the frozen, crystalline crust of the Earth to a place where the clamour of the surface world is physically crushed into non-existence by the sheer weight of time and nature. Buried completely out of sight within the vast, unrelenting Antarctic ice sheet, the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory watches for elusive particles that have the ghost-like ability to pass right through the solid mass of our entire planet without ever slowing down or changing course. This subterranean sentinel is anchored in a realm of crushing silent weight, where 2 miles of ancient glacial ice press down on thousands of highly sensitive optical sensors, creating a tomb of perfect isolation. The ice at this incredible depth is so clear and compressed that it behaves like a perfect frozen lens, allowing the observatory to monitor a massive cubic kilometre of the Earth's interior with terrifying precision. It is a lonely, freezing cathedral of science, built in the most hostile environment on our world to witness the arrival of visitors that have travelled from the furthest, most violent reaches of the cosmos. By turning the very planet into a filter, we have created a sanctuary where the smallest parts of the universe can finally be heard above the noise of human existence. This silent, frozen eye remains perpetually awake in the dark, waiting for a signal that carries the history of a distant galaxy. Every sensor is a silent witness to a reality that exists far beyond our atmospheric borders. It is the quietest place on Earth, dedicated to hearing the loudest events in the heavens. Suspended in the dark, frozen depths like luminous pearls on a string, thousands of spherical, basketball-sized optical sensors remain frozen permanently within the crystal-clear pressure of the South Pole's underbelly. These deep-sea eyes are not waiting for light to fall from the stars above, but are instead staring into the ice itself to catch the rarest of cosmic interactions that occur when a ghost particle finally meets a physical obstacle. They exist in a state of eternal, frigid suspension, entombed within the glacial tomb that simultaneously protects them from surface interference and serves as their colossal, frozen detection medium. Each sensor is a masterpiece of pressure-resistant engineering, designed to survive the unimaginable squeeze of the ice, while remaining sensitive enough to detect the arrival of a single photon of light. They form a vast, three-dimensional grid of electronic nerves that turn a massive block of ice into a living, thinking scientific instrument that monitors the dark. This network of frozen eyes remains perpetually awake, watching the silent, cold dark for a signal that may have been travelling for eons across the empty void between galaxies. Occasionally, the profound silence of the deep ice is shattered by a microscopic luminous miracle, as a nearly massless neutrino finally crashes into a single ice molecule after wandering the void for eons. This rare collision produces a tiny fleeting flash of blue Cherenkov radiation, a ghostly light that represents a particle exceeding the speed of light within that specific medium. This ethereal blue glow is the only visual evidence of a cosmic traveller that has likely spent billions of years wandering the void without ever touching another atom of matter. The sensors capture this brief, sapphire spark and record its exact position and timing with sub-nanosecond precision, allowing us to map the trajectory of the invisible. It is a beautiful, violent moment of contact, where a particle from a distant galaxy finally ends its journey in the dark, silent heart of the Antarctic ice. The blue flash is a silent scream of energy, a brief moment where the invisible becomes visible, if only to the digital eyes we've buried in the deep. This sapphire light illuminates the dark for the briefest of moments before vanishing back into the void. It is a relic of a distant explosion, a piece of light that has travelled across the universe to die in the ice. We are the witnesses to these final blue echoes of the deep. If we were to look closer at the origin of these ghost particles, we would discover that they travel in perfect, unswerving straight lines from the most violent and churning cores of active distant galaxies. Unlike starlight, which can be bent by gravity or absorbed by clouds of dust, neutrinos act as the ultimate uncorrupted messengers of the high-energy universe, carrying their data perfectly across the void. They slice through suns, planets, and entire nebulae with total indifference, carrying the secrets of the most extreme environments directly to our frozen underground traps, without losing a single detail of their origin. By tracing the path of that blue flash back into the sky, astronomers can point to the exact spot in the heavens where a supermassive black hole is currently devouring a star or a galaxy is being torn apart. They are the only particles that can survive the journey from the centre of an explosion to the centre of our planet without losing their way or their identity. They bring us a pure, unfiltered message from the heart of chaos, travelling across the universe in a straight line that points directly back to their source. This unyielding trajectory makes them the perfect tool for mapping the most violent neighbourhoods in the cosmos. While light is a wanderer, easily lost and confused by the clutter of space, the neutrino is an arrow. It points toward the truth of what is happening in the dark, unreachable corners of the deep. As you feel the weight of your own body pressing gently into the mattress, consider that far below the lush forests of a Japanese mountain, a different kind of trap awaits these same elusive signals. Inside a massive underground cavern, the Super Kamiokande Observatory utilizes a colossal tank filled with 50,000 tons of ultra-pure water to catch the fleeting blue flashes of passing neutrinos. This subterranean cathedral of science is shielded by 1,000 meters of solid rock, creating a sanctuary of silence far removed from the radioactive noise of the surface world that would otherwise blind its delicate eyes. Deep beneath the mountain, this golden eye stares into the water, searching for the same blue sparks that dance in the Antarctic ice. It is a quiet, shimmering world that remains completely unknown to the hikers and animals roaming the forest above. In this dark cathedral, we wait for the universe to whisper its secrets into the water. Within this dark, water-filled sanctuary, the maintenance of the golden photomultiplier tubes requires a surreal and meditative process that feels more like a religious rite than a technical task performed by humans. Technicians must occasionally paddle across the surface of the dark, ultra-pure water in small rubber boats to carefully clean and inspect the thousands of golden eyes lining the cavern walls. This silent subterranean voyage is conducted in near total darkness, where the only ripples in the water are caused by the gentle dip of an oar, as humans tend to the machines that watch for the universe's ghosts. The water is so pure that it would be toxic to drink, and the silence is so heavy that the sound of a single drop falling can echo for seconds across the golden walls. It is a quiet, rhythmic labour that connects the mundane world of human maintenance to the transcendent mysteries of the subatomic realm, performed in a temple of water and light. Each movement is slow and deliberate, a careful dance in the dark that ensures the observatory remains ready to catch the next visitor from the stars. This small boat, drifting in the centre of a mountain, is one of the most remote and quiet outposts of human exploration. The golden reflections dance on the ceiling as the technician works, a solitary figure in a cathedral of light. It is a moment of profound peace and purpose in the service of the unknown. The sheer, ghostly nature of the neutrino is such that a single particle could theoretically fly through a solid block of lead a light year thick without ever hitting a single atom, or slowing its pace by even a fraction. This staggering lack of interaction makes them nearly impossible to detect, requiring the massive planet-sized scales of our underground and under-ice observatories just to catch a handful of events from the billions that pass through. They are the ultimate introverts of the subatomic world, existing in a state of perpetual transit that renders the entire physical matter of the universe as transparent as a sheet of thin, clean glass. This elusive quality is why they are often called ghost particles, as they inhabit a reality that barely touches our own, passing through us like shadows through a dark room. We are building these gargantuan detectors not to catch something common, but to capture the most antisocial travellers in the entire known cosmos, turning the Earth into a giant net for the invisible. They move through the dense hearts of suns and the thickest armour with equal ease, proving that the solid world we inhabit is mostly made of empty space and silence. Their indifference to matter is their greatest strength, allowing them to carry information from places that light cannot ever go. They are the explorers of the impenetrable, the only things that can tell us what lies at the centre of the world. In the face of a neutrino, the entire universe is an open door. Observing these elusive particles allows astronomers to peer into the dense, churning hearts of collapsing stars hours before the visible light of the supernova finally managed to escape the debris and dust. Because neutrinos are produced in the core and fly out instantly at nearly the speed of light, they arrive as a silent, invisible vanguard that warns us of a star's violent death long before the first flash of light hits our telescopes. They provide a unique, real-time window into the very centre of a stellar explosion, revealing the physics of collapse while the star's outer layers are still intact and hiding the core from view. This early warning system allows us to point every telescope on Earth and in space toward the dying star, catching the explosion from the very first photon of visible light that eventually escapes. It is a cosmic telegram sent by the neutrinos, informing us that a monumental change has occurred in the distant heavens, allowing us to be witnesses to the very beginning of a new nebula. We're using these ghosts as a celestial alarm clock, waking us up to the most violent and beautiful events in the history of the galaxy. Without this invisible signal, the most important moments of a star's death would be lost to us forever. The neutrinos tell us the story of the core, while the light tells the story of the surface. Together they give us a complete and perfect picture of the end of a world. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the immense, quiet scale of the Earth beneath you, much like the colossal, miles-wide detectors we have buried to capture the smallest things in existence. The sheer, monumental size of these underground facilities highlights how incredibly desperate humanity is to catch just a few subatomic interactions per day from the trillions of neutrinos passing through our world. We build cities of sensors in the dark just to witness a handful of fleeting blue sparks, a testament to our relentless hunger to understand the invisible foundations that hold the entire cosmos together. The investment of billions of dollars and decades of labour for a few flashes of light reveals the profound value we place on the simple act of pure knowledge. We are willing to dig into the roots of mountains and the frozen heart of the ice to hear the smallest, quietest parts of the story that the universe is telling us. This pursuit of the invisible reminds us that we are part of something much larger, a cosmic landscape where the smallest particles hold the keys to the greatest mysteries of creation. Each spark in the dark is a reward for our patience and our scale. It is a connection between the micro and the macro, the human and the divine. In the silence of these traps, we find the answers to questions we have been asking since the dawn of time. Surprisingly, the universe is constantly raining down upon you in a way that is entirely undetectable to your senses, even as you lie here in the safety and quiet of your home. Every single second, trillions of neutrinos produced by the nuclear furnace of the sun are harmlessly passing right through your body, the walls of your room, and the entire mass of the planet beneath you. You are a transparent ghost to them, a temporary arrangement of atoms that offers no more resistance than the empty void as they continue their endless journey across the stars. They stream through your eyes, your heart, and your bones without leaving a single trace, moving at nearly the speed of light toward the dark edge of the galaxy. It is a staggering realization that you're being pierced by a cosmic storm of information every moment of your life, yet you remain blissfully, serenely unaware of the silent, invisible rain. They have come from the heart of the sun and will pass through the center of the earth, continuing on into the dark, carrying the memory of our world with them into the infinite night. This silent bombardment connects your resting form to the very engine of our solar system and the distant reaches of space beyond. Even as you drift towards sleep, these messengers are stitching you into the fabric of a much larger, more mysterious reality. You're never truly alone in the dark, for the ghosts of the stars are always passing through you, carrying the light of creation to the end of time. The fabric of the cosmos, which carries the light of creation to the end of time, is not merely a backdrop for the stars, but a physical, tactile medium that can be felt by the most precise instruments ever conceived by human hands. Across the flat, sun-drenched landscapes of the American Northwest and the humid deep South, the LIGO Observatory manifests as two identical, colossal concrete vacuum tubes stretching for exactly 4 kilometers in a perfect L-shaped geometry. These structures are so perfectly straight that the very curvature of the Earth had to be mathematically accounted for during their construction, ensuring the internal lasers remain perfectly centered despite the planet's rounded surface. Inside these vast, lightless corridors, the air has been painstakingly removed over many weeks to create one of the most perfect vacuums ever achieved on our planet. A void so pure that it offers no resistance to the light travelling through its heart. This physical presence represents a monumental achievement in civil engineering, a terrestrial anchor for a science that seeks to touch the intangible, standing as a silent, unmoving monument to our desire to measure the invisible tremors of the universe. They are rooted in the mundane soil while looking at the infinite, providing a long enough baseline to detect the most infinitesimal shifts in the geometry of reality that normally pass through us unnoticed. Surrounded by nothing but the quiet rustle of sagebrush or the humid stillness of the Louisiana forest, these massive arms wait for the arrival of a signal that does not travel through the air, but through the ground and the very space we occupy. The sheer physical scale is a requirement of the physics it serves, proving that the world itself is a sensitive antenna capable of bridging the gap between our limited terrestrial perception and the vast, shivering events of the deep. It is a structure that finally allows us to touch the vacuum, turning the solid Earth into a tool for understanding the intangible shivers of the stars. Deep within the heart of these massive airless arteries, powerful lasers are split and sent on a relentless journey, bouncing back and forth between mirrors that have been polished to a state of near atomic perfection. These mirrors are the smoothest surfaces ever created by humanity, possessing a topographical flatness that is almost incomprehensible, where the highest peak on the surface is no larger than a few atoms in height. Every time the laser strikes these flawless surfaces, it reflects with a purity that allows it to travel hundreds of miles within the tube, effectively multiplying the sensitivity of the detector. The light exists in a state of constant, perfect resonance, creating a standing wave of energy that is hypersensitive to any change in the distance between the two suspended mirrors. Even the most microscopic movement, a distance smaller than the nucleus of an atom, will cause the light to shift its phase and reveal a hidden presence that was previously undetectable to science. This light is the ruler by which we measure the universe, a yardstick made of photons that remains perfectly straight across the vastness of the L-shaped tunnels, ignoring the chaos of the world outside. If we were to look closer at these mirrors, we would see them suspended by silica fibers so thin they are nearly invisible, yet strong enough to hold the massive weight of the glass in a state of total trembling isolation. They are the quietest objects in the world, held in a vacuum that protects them from the chaotic thermal dance of air molecules and the constant hum of human activity. In this absolute stillness, the laser becomes a living witness to the most subtle movements of the cosmic stage, reflecting a reality we can barely imagine while the rest of the planet remains in motion. When two supermassive black holes collide a billion light-years away, they do not merely create a flash of light, but instead send invisible, physical ripples through the very fabric of space-time itself. This violent, unseen collision of titans churns the vacuum like an oar in water, creating waves of gravity that travel outward at the speed of light, carrying the energy of several entire suns converted into pure kinetic vibration. These ripples are the literal stretching and squeezing of reality, a fundamental distortion that travels across the empty void for eons until it finally washes over our tiny planet. Surprisingly, these waves carry the memory of the collision perfectly intact, unburdened by the interference of dust or the blockage of stars that normally obscure our view of the heavens. They represent a new way of seeing the universe, one that does not rely on photons but on the tactile shivering of the vacuum as it reacts to the movements of the most massive objects. As these ripples pass through the Earth, they momentarily alter the distance between every atom in existence, including the ones that make up your own body and the solid ground upon which you stand. The energy released in these events is so vast that for a fraction of a second, the power output of a single black hole merger exceeds the combined light of every star in the observable universe. Yet, by the time these waves reach our world, they have faded into a whisper so faint it requires the most sensitive machines ever built to detect their passage. We are reaching out into the dark to touch the echoes of a cataclysm that occurred before life on Earth even began, hearing the history of the stars as it passes through our very bones. As these gravitational waves briefly wash over us, they stretch and squeeze the entire mass of the Earth by a fraction of the width of a single proton. This change is so incredibly minute that if the distance being measured were scaled up to the width of the entire Milky Way galaxy, the shift would be no larger than the thickness of a single human hair. It is a measurement of such profound, almost terrifying precision that it requires us to listen for movements that are billions of times smaller than the objects we normally perceive with our senses. As you lie there, feeling the quiet, rhythmic expansion of your own chest as you breathe, the very space you occupy is being subtly warped by these passing cosmic tremors. Your body, the floor beneath you, and the atmosphere around you are all momentarily lengthened and shortened in a silent, invisible ballet that you can never feel, but that defines the nature of your physical presence. This is the ultimate proof of the fragility of our physical reality, where even the solid ground is subject to the bending and flexing of the universe as it reacts to the distant collision of giants. This infinitesimal shivering is captured by the lasers within the tubes, which detect the slight change in the travel time of the light as the mirrors move closer and then further apart. To capture this signal, the observatory must filter out the noise of an entire planet, focusing only on the rhythm of the stars that reaches us through the void. It is the most difficult measurement ever performed, a triumph of human persistence over the staggering scales of the infinite, confirming that the ground itself is never truly still. Extraordinary internal suspension systems are required to isolate the hanging mirrors from the constant chaotic vibrations of the Earth that would otherwise drown out the faint whispers of the stars. These mirrors are held in place by a series of 4 successive pendulums, a cascading chain of isolation that filters out the seismic roar of distant ocean waves and the heavy thrum of passing highway trucks. Each stage of the suspension further refines the silence, ensuring that the mirror at the bottom of the chain is the quietest object in the known universe, perfectly isolated from the tremors of our world. If a single leaf were to fall near the observatory, or if a storm were to rage 1,000 miles away, these advanced dampening systems would absorb the energy before it could touch the mirror's surface. This mechanical silence is achieved through active feedback systems that sense external movements and immediately move the mirrors in the opposite direction to compensate with absolute precision. It is a constant, invisible struggle to maintain a state of perfect stillness in a world that is always shaking, moving, and reacting to the forces of life and gravity. Technicians must wear specialized gear and follow strict protocols to ensure even their own heartbeats and footsteps do not interfere with the delicate readings of the laser during an observation. The facility is a sanctuary of non-vibration, a place where the stillness is so profound it feels like stepping outside of time itself to witness the movements of the cosmos. By creating this artificial silence, we have finally made it possible to hear the quietest sounds the universe has to offer, reaching across the void to touch the shivering edge of reality. The observatory essentially operates as a massive ultra-sensitive ear, listening to the literal drumming of space-time itself as the universe vibrates with the energy of distant events. While traditional telescopes allow us to see the cosmos, these gravitational wave detectors allow us to hear it, providing an entirely new sense that was previously closed to humanity for the entirety of our history. This hearing is not the reception of sound through air, but the direct perception of the vibrations of the vacuum, a rhythmic thrumming that tells the story of matter and gravity. The data captured by the lasers is converted into audio frequencies, allowing scientists to actually listen to the chirp of 2 black holes as they spiral inward and finally merge. This sound is the literal voice of gravity, a descending and then ascending tone that marks the final, violent moments of a cosmic union that occurred millions of years ago. It is a haunting, beautiful melody that has travelled across the billion light-year void to reach our ears, carrying the data of the deep cosmos in its rhythmic rise and fall. As you continue to relax, notice how your own internal world has its own quiet rhythms, a steady pulse that connects you to the physical reality of being alive in this moment. Just as your heart beats within your chest, the universe has its own drumming, a constant vibration that underscores the existence of everything we know and see. We're no longer merely spectators of the light. but listeners to the very movement of the stars, participating in the symphony of the deep. When two neutron stars, the hyperdense city-sized remnants of dead suns, collide, they ring out like distant cosmic bells in the audio data stream of our terrestrial detectors. Unlike the short, sharp thud of black holes, these mergers produce a long, sustained chirp that can last for several minutes as the stars spin toward each other at nearly the speed of light. This vibration is the sound of the densest matter in the universe being torn apart and fused into new elements, a heavy metal symphony of creation that echoes through the void. The resulting signal is a rich, complex tone that contains the secret history of how the heavy elements in our own bodies, like gold and platinum, were originally forged in the heart of these explosions. These mergers are the cosmic workshops where the most precious materials are created, and our detectors allow us to witness the exact moment of their birth through the shivering of the vacuum. The ring down of the collision is a fading echo that tells us about the stability and composition of the resulting object, whether it becomes a larger neutron star or collapses into a new black hole. This discovery has linked the study of the incredibly small with the study of the incredibly large, showing how subatomic physics dictates the behavior of entire stars in their final moments. Every time we hear the tolling of these cosmic bells, we are receiving a message about the fundamental nature of matter and the destiny of the suns. It is a sound that was predicted by math and finally confirmed by the shivering of a laser, a tolling that marks the end of one sun and the birth of a new reality. A global network of similar facilities, including the Virgo detector in Italy and the Kagra Observatory in Japan, allow scientists to precisely triangulate exactly where a cosmic collision occurred in the vastness of the sky. By comparing the microsecond differences in the arrival time of the gravitational waves at each separate location, astronomers can draw a map that points back to the origin of the ripple. This planetary-scale collaboration effectively turns the entire Earth into a single, massive antenna that can pinpoint events with startling accuracy and speed. This triangulation is critical because gravitational waves do not provide a clear picture on their own, but rather a general direction of the signal as it washes over the planet. Once the location is identified, optical and radio telescopes around the world can be swiveled toward the target to look for the brilliant fading flash of light that accompanies the merger. This multi-messenger astronomy is the most advanced form of observation ever devised, combining the senses of hearing and sight to understand a single event in its entirety. If we were to look closer at the coordination required, we would see atomic clocks synchronized to the billionth of a second at each facility across the globe to ensure the data remains valid. This level of precision is the only way to catch the universe in the act of changing, ensuring no event goes unrecorded or misunderstood by our global network. We have transformed our world into a unified ear, listening together for the next great shiver in the void, a global effort to track the movement of the infinite. This entire radical branch of astronomy only exists because Albert Einstein predicted these ripples using pure mathematics and the power of his imagination over a century ago. He realized that if space and time were a single, flexible fabric, then the movement of massive objects should create waves that travel through that fabric like ripples on a pond. For decades, these waves were thought to be a mathematical curiosity, something too faint to ever be measured by human technology, existing only on the chalkboards of theoretical physicists. Surprisingly, Einstein himself wavered on whether these ripples were real or merely an artifact of the equations he had spent years refining in his search for the laws of gravity. It took the development of high-power lasers and advanced vacuum technology for the scientific community to finally build the tools necessary to prove him right and capture the signal. This discovery stands as the ultimate validation of the human mind's ability to perceive the underlying structure of reality using nothing but logic, numbers, and the courage to look beyond the visible. Every positive detection of a gravitational wave is a victory for the human spirit and our desire to explore the unknown corners of the cosmic stage. We have reached out across a century of time to confirm a vision that was born in the mind of a single individual working with a pencil and paper. It is a reminder that the universe is governed by laws that we have the power to understand and decode, turning abstract theory into tangible, shivering reality. This dynamic reality reveals that empty space is not a void at all, but a dynamic, flexible medium that bends, stretches, and vibrates under the influence of extreme gravity. We once believed the vacuum was nothingness, a silent and static stage upon which the drama of the stars was performed by the light of the suns. Now we know that the stage itself is a performer, a living part of the cosmic dance that carries energy and information across the infinite stretches of time and space. The universe is more like an ocean than a desert, filled with currents and waves that we're only just beginning to map and understand with our new gravitational senses. This flexibility means that everything in the cosmos is interconnected through the invisible threads of gravity, where the movement of a distant star can be felt by the ground beneath your feet. It is a profound realization that challenges our very definition of what is real and what is empty, showing us a universe that is constantly reacting to itself. As you drift toward the edge of sleep, consider the incredible complexity of the space that surrounds you at this very moment in the dark. It is not empty, but full of potential, a resilient and elastic fabric that has been shivering since the moment of the Big Bang and will continue forever. You're floating in a sea of ripples, a part of a dynamic reality that is constantly changing and reacting to the movements of the stars, a witness to the endless shivering of the void. Deep within the silent, winding shafts of a repurposed gold mine in South Dakota, the shivering of the void is met with an even deeper, more profound stillness designed to catch the uncatchable. Here, nearly a mile beneath the surface, the Lux Zeppelin experiment sits in patient, absolute isolation, protected from the noisy radioactive world above by layers of ancient rock and shielding. At its heart lies a massive titanium vessel, filled with 10 tons of liquid xenon, cooled to a deep, biting chill that allows the liquid to wait quietly for a single, miraculous interaction. This subterranean hunter does not look for light, but instead waits for the rare moment a dark matter particle might finally bump into a xenon nucleus, triggering a tiny, telltale flash of electronic signal. It is a hunt conducted in total darkness, seeking a ghost that has theoretically been passing through our world since the beginning of time. This experiment represents our most refined attempt to touch the invisible architecture of the cosmos, turning a deep earth cavern into a sanctuary for the unknown. We're effectively listening for the softest possible footfalls of a giant that walks through the walls of our reality without ever leaving a trace. It is a mechanical prayer for contact, whispered in the freezing dark of the Earth's interior, hoping to finally turn a mystery into a discovery. This experiment serves as a silent bridge between the weight of our planet and the intangible secrets of the infinite dark. This structure of solid stone acts as a massive natural filter, scrubbing the environment of the constant chaotic rain of cosmic rays that relentlessly bombard the Earth's surface. Thousands of feet of rock sit overhead, absorbing the high-energy particles from space that would otherwise drown out the incredibly faint and rare signals the experiment seeks to capture. While the surface of our planet is a noisy theatre of radiation and light, the depths of the mine offer a rare pocket of radioactive silence, where only the most elusive particles can penetrate. This natural shielding is so effective that it reduces the background noise by a factor of millions, allowing the liquid xenon to remain in a state of tranquil, undisturbed readiness. Scientists working in this deep-seated laboratory must descend in elevators that drop through the darkness, entering a realm where the only signals that matter are the ones that have bypassed the rest of reality. It is a place where the weight of the mountain becomes a tool for clarity, providing the absolute stillness necessary to witness the smallest ripples in the cosmic dark. Here, the very mass of our world is used as a shield to protect our ability to perceive the mysteries of the infinite. It is a humbling reminder that to see the furthest stars, we must sometimes hide ourselves in the deepest corners of the ground. By burying our instruments, we allow the mountain to hold its breath, creating a sanctuary where the rarest whispers of the cosmos can finally be heard. Surprisingly, the universe is governed by a presence that refuses to be seen, a dark architecture that exerts an immense gravitational pull while remaining completely invisible to every form of light. Astronomers have long observed that galaxies spin at such incredible, dizzying speeds that they should naturally fly apart, yet they are held together by an unseen, massive glue that provides the necessary weight to maintain their structure. This dark matter does not emit, absorb or reflect light, passing through stars and planets as if they were nothing more than empty ghosts in the night. We can only map its existence by watching how its heavy, invisible fingers pull on the visible stars and gas, creating a cosmic scaffolding upon which everything else is built. It is a staggering realization that the majority of the matter in existence is fundamentally beyond our visual reach, a silent partner in the dance of the heavens. Our observatories are now tasked with finding the physical evidence of this shadow, translating the language of gravity into something we can finally comprehend. We are essentially living in a house where the walls are invisible, yet they are the only thing keeping the roof from falling. Without this hidden mass, the stars would be scattered like dust in the wind, and the universe as we know it would cease to exist. Dark matter is the silent architect of everything we see, a presence that defines the shape of our home while remaining forever out of sight. If we were to look closer at the high, windswept ridges of the Chilean Andes, we would find a new kind of sentinel preparing to unveil the deepest mysteries of the southern sky. The Vera C. Rubin Observatory is not built for a single narrow stare, but is instead designed to perform a relentless, rapid-fire scan of the entire visible horizon every few nights. This technological titan will produce a massive, continuous movie of the cosmos, capturing the movements of billions of objects and mapping the unseen influence of dark energy across the expanding void. By documenting the subtle changes in the positions of distant galaxies over time, it aims to measure the exact strength of the force that is currently tearing the universe apart at the seams. It is a mission of unprecedented scale, turning the night sky into a dynamic, living database that tracks the evolution of reality itself. This facility represents a transition from a static view of the stars to a vibrant, high-definition understanding of the dark forces that dictate our ultimate fate. It is our most ambitious attempt to see the invisible hand that is currently reshaping the destiny of everything we know. The data gathered here will serve as a roadmap for future generations, guiding us through the dark ocean of the expanding infinite. From its perch on the mountain, this watcher will witness the unfolding of the cosmic script in real time. Notice how your body rests in perfect, quiet harmony with the room, a small and singular presence that is about to be dwarfed by the sheer optical power of a machine built to see everything at once. Nestled within the heart of the Rubin Observatory is a massive digital camera the physical size of a small car, a masterpiece of electronic engineering that serves as the world's largest and most powerful photographic eye. This gargantuan sensor is capable of capturing a field of view so wide that it could photograph 40 full moons in a single exposure, all with a resolution of 3 billion pixels. It is an instrument of extreme precision, designed to detect the faintest, most distant flickers of light that have travelled for eons across the southern sky. Every few seconds it takes a new image, gathering a staggering volume of data that will eventually catalogue every star and galaxy visible from its mountain perch. This camera is our ultimate tool for mapping the unknown, a synthetic eye that sees with a clarity and scale that far surpasses any biological vision. It is a technological marvel that turns the vast dark sky into a digital canvas for the next generation of human discovery. This machine is a testament to our relentless hunger to see what lies beyond the horizon, translating the light of billion-year-old stars into a language of digital clarity. Within its heavy frame, the mysteries of the South are captured and preserved for all of eternity. Looking across the void, researchers search for the subtle, telltale distortions caused by the bending of ancient starlight around invisible masses of dark matter. This phenomenon, known as gravitational lensing, occurs when the heavy gravitational field of an unseen object acts like a massive cosmic magnifying glass, warping and magnifying the light of galaxies sitting far behind it. By observing these curved arcs and ghostly rings of light, we can carefully chart the exact distribution and shape of the skeletal structure of the universe that remains hidden from our direct view. It is as if we are looking at the ripples on the surface of a pond to determine the shape of the stones lying at the very bottom. This technique allows us to see the invisible by watching how it interacts with the visible, revealing the hidden weight that directs the flow of starlight across the void. It is a form of shadow mapping on a galactic scale, turning the very geometry of space into a scientific instrument for discovery. We are learning to read the distortions in the fabric of light to understand the silent architecture of the dark. Every warped image is a clue to the true nature of reality, showing us the hidden contours of a universe we cannot see directly. Through these optical bends, the invisible becomes a map for the curious mind. The reality we inhabit is a place where 95% of the total contents are entirely unknown to modern physics and remain completely beyond our current understanding. Everything we can see, from the glowing hearts of distant stars to the complex biological structures of our own bodies, makes up a mere 5% of the actual reality of the cosmos. The rest of existence is composed of dark matter and dark energy, two mysterious and invisible substances that we can measure through their effects, but cannot yet physically identify or explain. We're only just beginning to realize that the universe we thought we knew is merely the glowing tip of an iceberg. The true nature of existence is written in the dark, and we're only just beginning to learn how to read the silence. Every observation reminds us that we are the guests in a theatre, where the main actors remain behind the curtain. Far beyond the reach of our own small world, the expansion of the universe is being pushed apart by a mysterious and repulsive force known as dark energy, which acts as a sort of anti-gravity within the vacuum of space. Astronomers have discovered that instead of slowing down after the initial explosion of the Big Bang, the expansion of the universe is actually accelerating at increasingly alarming and incomprehensible speeds. Dark energy fills the empty gaps between galaxies, exerting a silent and constant pressure that forces the entire cosmic landscape to grow larger and emptier with every passing second. As you relax and feel the steady, quiet rhythm of your own breathing, consider that the distance between us and the furthest galaxies is growing by millions of miles in the time it takes for you to exhale. This acceleration is the ultimate mystery of modern science, a force that seems to have no source and no limit, leading us toward a future where the night sky will eventually become a black and empty void. We are watching the slow-motion disassembly of the heavens, driven by a ghost that we are only just beginning to name. It is a force that is actively stretching the very fabric of our reality until the stars themselves are lost to the dark. This accelerating expansion is the ultimate deadline for humanity, a silent reminder that our window into the deep cosmos is slowly closing. In the face of this infinite push, we must look quickly before the light is gone forever. Each new discovery made by these watchers reinforces a profound and unsettling realization that everything we have ever studied is likely just a tiny fraction of a much larger and more complex reality. The mountaintop telescopes and deep Earth detectors are all working in concert to reveal the hidden dimensions of a universe that does not conform to our simple, light-based perceptions. We have spent centuries cataloguing the stars, only to find that they are merely the glowing markers on a much larger and darker map that we are only beginning to decipher. This search for the 95% is a fundamental shift in the human perspective, moving us away from a focus on the visible and into a deep engagement with the invisible forces that govern everything we know. It is a journey into the heart of the unknown, where the rules of the game are being rewritten by the data gathered in the freezing chill of Xenon and the rapid scans of the sky. We are finally admitting that we are the newcomers to a dark and ancient theatre, looking for the script that has been hidden in the shadows for billions of years. Our entire history of science has been a study of the exception, while the dark represents the true rule of existence. We are learning to embrace the shadows as the true foundation of our home. By looking into the dark, we're finally seeing the universe as it truly is, rather than how we wished it to be. Patiently, these observers gather the subtle data that might eventually overturn the most established and foundational laws of modern physics. Every tiny, unexpected flicker in a xenon tank, and every microscopic shift in the motion of a distant galaxy acts as a potential signal that our current theories of gravity and matter are incomplete. We are currently testing the very limits of what we know, pushing against the boundaries of Einstein's relativity and the standard model of particles to see where the fabric of our understanding finally begins to fray. The hunt for dark matter and dark energy is essentially a hunt for a new kind of science, one that can bridge the gap between the world of light and the world of shadows. By listening to the silence of the deep earth and watching the accelerated drift of the stars, we are preparing for a scientific revolution that could redefine our place in the cosmos. It is a patient, meticulous work of discovery, where the smallest piece of evidence could unlock a future where the dark is no longer a mystery, but a familiar and understood part of our home. We are standing on the edge of a new paradigm, waiting for the shadows to finally speak their truth. This is the ultimate goal of the Watchers, to bring the unknown into the light of human understanding. In the freezing silence and the rapid scans, the future of our knowledge is being born. The knowledge being born from the freezing silence and the rapid scans of the deep sky must find its grounding in the intense, familiar radiance of our own celestial neighbourhood, where specialised sentinels maintain a constant, unblinking vigil. While other telescopes seek the faint ghosts of the distant past, the Solar Dynamics Observatory stares directly into the heart of a blistering, violent fire that sustains all life on our planet. It records the continuous, chaotic boiling of the sun's surface, a roiling sea of plasma that churns with the terrifying power of billions of nuclear detonations occurring every single moment. From its vantage point in space, this observatory captures the sun in wavelengths of light that are invisible to the human eye, revealing a world of magnetic structures and incandescent gas. This unceasing documentation allows us to witness the birth of solar storms in real time, turning a blinding orb of light into a detailed map of cosmic energy. We are no longer merely spectators of the day, but active monitors of a star that is far more dynamic than any ancient myth could have suggested. It is a vital pursuit of understanding, bringing the blindingly bright and the dangerously hot into the clear light of human scientific comprehension. Deep within this glowing atmosphere, invisible magnetic field lines become tangled and knotted like ancient frayed ropes under immense physical tension. Surprisingly, when these lines reach their breaking point, they snap and twist with a violent release of energy that launches billion-ton clouds of superheated plasma outward into the cold vacuum of the solar system. These massive eruptions, known as coronal mass ejections, travel as expanding walls of radiation and charged particles that can bridge the vast distance to Earth in a matter of hours. The imagery captured by our sentinels shows these events in blistering, vivid detail, appearing as colossal loops of fire that dwarf our entire planet. As these clouds race through the void, they carry with them the magnetic signature of the sun, potentially interacting with the magnetic fields of any planet in their path. This process represents the sun reaching out into the dark, a physical extension of its internal chaos that reshapes the space between the worlds. We watch these snapping lines with a mixture of awe and caution, knowing that the stability of our technological world depends on understanding these sudden, violent shifts in solar anatomy. If we were to look closer at the ingenious instruments used to study this violent activity, we would find specialized cameras called coronagraphs that perform a delicate optical trick. By artificially blocking out the sun's main, blinding disk, with a solid, circular occulting disk. These devices reveal the faint, ethereal, and glowing halo of the outer corona that is normally lost in the glare. This allows us to witness the intricate flowering structures of solar wind as they reach out toward the planets, appearing in vivid false colour that highlights the extreme temperature differences in the gas. The corona is paradoxically much hotter than the surface of the Sun itself, a mystery that these instruments are designed to help us solve through continuous observation. Without this artificial eclipse, the most active and dangerous part of our star's atmosphere would remain forever hidden behind a veil of brilliant light. The resulting photographs look like a ghostly dancing crown of white and blue fire, providing a window into the magnetic highways that guide plasma across the solar system. This perspective turns the Sun into a complex layered environment rather than a simple solid sphere, revealing the subtle beauty of its outer reach. Closer to home, the focus shifts from the blistering heat of our local star to the silent dark threats lurking in the immediate vicinity of our own orbital path. A network of highly automated robotic telescopes rapidly scans the night sky, moving with a mechanical, insect-like efficiency to document every flickering point of light that crosses their wide-field sensors. These sentinels are not looking for the birth of galaxies or the death of distant suns, but for the cold, tumbling remnants of the early solar system that might be on a collision course with Earth. Working in the shadows, they catalogue the movements of thousands of near-Earth asteroids, many of which are as dark as coal and almost invisible against the blackness of space. Each night of scanning adds to a growing database of potential hazards, turning the chaos of the asteroid belt into a predictable and monitored landscape. By maintaining this constant search, we are effectively building a shield of information around our planet, ensuring that no stray rock can enter our atmosphere without being noticed. These telescopes act as the first line of defense in a quiet war of vigilance, protecting our civilization from the random debris of the cosmos. Allow your breath to settle into a slow, effortless rhythm as you consider the invisible digital minds working tirelessly while the rest of the world sleeps, processing a reality that is too vast for any human eye to catalogue alone. Complex mathematical algorithms sift through mountains of photographic data, flagging the tiny, faint-moving dots that shift almost imperceptibly against the backdrop of fixed, distant stars. By calculating the exact trajectory and velocity of these potential planetary impactors, these systems provide us with a vital census of the rocky debris that shares our corner of the cosmic stage. A single point of light, if it moves with a specific calculated intent, can trigger a global network of follow-up observations to refine its path and determine its composition. This digital vigilance allows us to predict the orbital dance of these rocky visitors years or even decades in advance, giving us the ultimate advantage of time. We're no longer at the mercy of the random, violent impacts that shaped the early history of our world, but are instead the masters of a predictive science that sees the invisible. Every moving dot is a piece of a larger puzzle, a tiny marker on a map that ensures the continued safety of our terrestrial home. This structure of planetary defense is complemented by the daring, almost suicidal journey of the Parker Solar Probe as it physically plunges through the Sun's outer atmosphere to touch the very fire it studies. To survive this blistering environment, the spacecraft is protected by a thick, specialized carbon composite heat shield that endures temperatures that would instantly melt any conventional terrestrial machine. It flies closer to the solar surface than any human object in history, operating in a realm of extreme radiation and heat where the Sun's gravity is at its most powerful. By gathering data directly from within the solar corona, it provides us with an unprecedented look at the mechanisms that accelerate the solar wind to supersonic speeds. The mission is a triumph of engineering over the most hostile conditions imaginable, a physical extension of our curiosity into the heart of a nuclear furnace. As the probe makes its rapid passes, it experiences a world of searing light and magnetic fury, sending back secrets that can only be found by standing in the center of the flame. It is a lonely, heroic journey that brings us closer to our star than we have ever dared to imagine. These diverse observatories act together as a critical, high-stakes early warning system that protects the fragile electrical grids and satellite networks upon which modern humanity completely relies for its daily survival. A significant solar storm, if left unmonitored, could induce massive electrical surges in long-distance power lines, potentially plunging entire continents into a prolonged and catastrophic darkness. By catching the first signs of a solar eruption through our space-based watchers, these sentinels grant engineers on the ground the precious hours needed to safeguard our technology and prevent a global technological collapse. We live in an era where our infrastructure is more sensitive to the moods of the sun than ever before, making the data from these telescopes as vital as any weather report. The invisible streams of particles launched by the sun can interfere with the global positioning systems that guide our ships and the satellites that carry our communications. Without this constant monitoring, we would be sailing blind in a sea of cosmic weather that can change in an instant. This early warning is the silent guardian of our modern way of life, turning a scientific pursuit into a necessary act of planetary preservation. Notice the steady, quiet hum of the world around you, a peaceful stability that exists only because these staring instruments never turn away from the blinding glare that defines our day. Without the constant, unblinking vigilance of these specialized solar telescopes, a massive solar flare could erupt and strike our planet with the force of a cosmic hammer, catching us entirely off guard and unprepared. We are shielded from the full fury of the sun by our magnetic field, but these watchers ensure we are never surprised by the sudden, violent shifts in the solar weather that dictate our daily safety. A single, powerful flare can release more energy than millions of hydrogen bombs, sending a wave of radiation toward us at the speed of light. Our sentinels detect these flashes the moment they occur, providing a real-time record of the sun's volatile behavior. This vigilance is the bridge between the chaotic power of a star and the quiet peace of a home, ensuring that the fire of the sun remains a source of life rather than a source of destruction. We sleep soundly because these mechanical eyes never close, watching the fire so we don't have to. Surprisingly, by studying our own local star with such extreme, intimate detail, we gain the foundational baseline understanding required to decipher the behavior of every other star in the observable universe. The sun serves as our ultimate laboratory, a place where we can witness the fundamental laws of stellar physics operating at a scale that allows for direct real-time observation of the unseen. Every discovery made about solar sunspots, convection zones, or magnetic cycles provides a critical key for interpreting the faint, distant flickers of starlight coming from the furthest reaches of the galaxy. We use our sun as a Rosetta Stone, translating its complex energetic language to understand the life cycles of stars that are billions of light years away. This local knowledge allows us to estimate the ages, sizes, and compositions of distant suns by comparing their behavior to the one star we can see up close. Our planetary sentinels are not just studying a single object, but are instead building the framework for all of stellar astronomy. By mastering the physics of our own neighbourhood, we are better prepared to explore the vast, shimmering neighbourhood of the Milky Way and beyond. These planetary sentinels fiercely remind us that our local star is not the static, peaceful yellow orb we often imagine in the sky, but a chaotic and relentlessly active nuclear engine of unimaginable power. It is a living, breathing giant that constantly reshapes the environment of the entire solar system through its violent outbursts and steady, invisible winds that sweep past the planets. We exist in the outer reaches of its atmosphere, a tiny harbour of life protected by the very sentinels that allow us to understand the magnificent, terrifying fire that both creates and threatens our world. The sun is a sphere of roiling plasma held together by its own immense gravity, a delicate balance between total collapse and explosive expansion. Each image captured in false colour reveals the complex, shifting beauty of this nuclear furnace, showing us a reality that is far more vibrant than anything we can see from the ground. This awareness changes our relationship with the sky, turning the light of the day into a reminder of the raw, energetic forces that govern the cosmos. We are the children of this fire, and our observatories are the tools we use to finally understand our Father. This facility utilizes a sprawling array of hypersensitive detectors chilled to a fraction of a degree above absolute zero to capture the most ancient light in the universe. Unlike optical telescopes that see the stars, these instruments perceive the cosmic microwave background, a relic of the era when the universe was a searing, opaque plasma. By capturing these ancient waves, we are constructing a high-definition photograph of the universe as it appeared nearly 14 billion years ago. The geometric perfection of hexagonal superconducting tiles within the telescope's heart allows us to filter out the noise of the modern world. This is not just an observation of space, but a direct encounter with the beginning of all things, etched into the sky. It is a monumental act of archaeological physics, unearthing the foundations of reality from the freezing desert plateau. Deep within the quiet, empty voids between the constellations, there exists a temperature that defines the cold heart of the universe. This cosmic microwave background radiation does not fluctuate with the seasons or the proximity of suns, but instead sits at a remarkably consistent and freezing temperature of exactly 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. This temperature is the result of billions of years of cosmic expansion, which has stretched and cooled the original fire of creation until it became a ghost of its former self. If we were to venture into the deepest interstellar reaches, we would find that even the darkest shadow is never truly empty of warmth. This 2.7 Kelvin glow is the floor of the universe's thermal environment, an inescapable bath of radiation that fills every cubic centimetre of space. It is the final, fading heartbeat of a universe that was once infinitely hot and dense, now reduced to a subtle, invisible hum. Our instruments must be cooled significantly further than this cosmic floor just to detect it, without being blinded by their own internal heat. This creates a fascinating technical paradox where we must build the coldest places in the galaxy to see the fading warmth of the beginning. It is a testament to the scale of the cosmos that its very first light is now so cold it can only be felt by the most advanced superconducting technology. Surprisingly, the seemingly uniform and smooth glow of this ancient light contains tiny, microscopic temperature variations that act as the blueprints for everything we see today. These infinitesimal fluctuations, often measuring only a few millionths of a degree, reveal the original seeds of density that existed when the universe was just a few 100,000 years old. Gravity eventually acted on these slight imbalances, pulling matter together into the massive superclusters of galaxies that now define the large-scale structure of the heavens. As you lie perfectly still, notice how your own breath represents a localized density of life in a vast and silent room, mirroring the way these ancient ripples provided the foundation for the stars. Without these tiny imperfections in the early plasma, the universe would have remained a featureless expanding cloud of hydrogen gas. There would be no planets, no suns, and no eyes to look back at the dark. Mapping these variations allows us to understand the precise recipe of the early cosmos, detailing exactly how much dark matter and energy were present to sculpt the reality we inhabit. We are essentially staring at the embryonic form of the entire universe, seeing the ghosts of galaxies before they were ever born. It is a stunning realization that the massive architecture of the stars began as a microscopic shiver in a sea of ancient light. If we were to look closer at the nature of space, we would realize that looking far out into the void is literally and physically looking backward in time. Because light travels at a finite, unchangeable speed, every image we capture of a distant object is a record of how it appeared when that light first began its journey. When these observatories gaze at the microwave background, they are looking back 13.8 billion years to the dawn of everything. catching photons that have been travelling since the moment the universe first became transparent. This is the ultimate time machine, allowing us to witness the conditions of the early cosmos without the need for speculation or imaginative reconstruction. We are not seeing a representation of the past, but the past itself, preserved in the medium of ancient radiation. The further we push our vision, the closer we come to the singular moment when the clock of existence first began to tick. This journey through time reveals a universe that has evolved from a simple, hot plasma into a complex tapestry of stellar life and galactic motion. We are the inheritors of this long history, standing at the very edge of an expanding timeline that we can now trace back to its origin. Each photon is a messenger from a time before time, carrying the data of the first light into our modern silicon sensors. This structure of cosmic understanding was significantly advanced by the Planck satellite, which mapped this radiation with unprecedented surgical precision from its lonely orbit far from the Earth. By escaping the interference of our atmosphere, Planck was able to measure the tiny ripples in the cosmic microwave background, with enough detail to provide us with the exact age and total composition of the universe. It confirmed that we live in a reality that is 13.8 billion years old, composed of a specific mixture of ordinary matter, dark matter, and the mysterious dark energy. Notice the steady, quiet rhythm of your own heart, a biological clock that measures the moments of your life, while Planck measured the moments of the entire cosmos. The satellite's data acted as a definitive census of the heavens, telling us exactly what the universe is made of and how fast it is currently expanding. It turned cosmology into a precision science, replacing broad estimates with rigorous mathematical certainty. The maps produced by this orbital sentinel are the most detailed ever created by human beings, showing the distribution of heat and matter across the entire observable sky. They are the definitive guidebooks for anyone seeking to understand the history and the future of the stars. Through the eyes of Planck, we finally grasp the proportions of our home in the infinite. Every single photon captured by these ground-based and orbital instruments has travelled completely unimpeded through the vastness of the cosmos since the dense universe first cooled enough to become transparent. For the first 380,000 years after the Big Bang, the universe was a thick, glowing fog where light was constantly bouncing off free electrons, unable to travel more than a few inches. When the temperature finally dropped enough for atoms to form, the light was suddenly released, allowed to fly across the void for billions of years without ever striking another object. The photons striking the Atacama detectors today have been on a straight, unswerving path for nearly the entire history of time. They have sailed past forming galaxies and through the hearts of empty voids, carrying the untainted image of the young universe directly to us. They represent a pristine, high-fidelity signal from a world that existed long before the first star ever ignited its nuclear furnace. This transparency was the moment the universe truly began to be visible, the transition from an opaque soup into the clear, dark theatre we recognise today. We're catching the very first burst of light that was ever allowed to move freely through the cosmos. It is the purest data stream in existence, a record of the morning of creation delivered to our doorstep. Studying this specific wavelength of light is perfectly and beautifully akin to examining the fossilized footprint of the entire cosmos, preserved in the cold layers of space. Just as a paleontologist reads the shape of an ancient creature from a mark in the stone, we read the history of the Big Bang from the patterns imprinted on the sky. This microwave light is the oldest fossil in the universe, a physical remnant of the energetic events that occurred in the first fraction of a second of existence. Surprisingly, the universe has a memory that it stores in the very light that fills it, allowing us to reconstruct the physics of the beginning with startling accuracy. We can see the effects of gravity, the density of gas, and even the subtle influence of exotic particles in the way these ancient waves are distributed. It is a form of cosmic archaeology that does not require a shovel, only the most sensitive and perfectly tuned antennas humanity can build. By analysing this footprint, we can determine the shape of the universe, whether it is flat, curved, or infinite, and how it will eventually end. Every tiny fluctuation is a syllable in a grand, ancient story that tells us where we came from and where we are going. We are the readers of the light, decoding the original script of the stars. Allow your mind to wander into the dark gaps of the night sky, realizing that the blackness is actually a curtain hiding a sea of invisible light. If our eyes were tuned to the microwave spectrum, the entire sky would glow with a uniform, brilliant intensity that would rival the midday sun. We are surrounded by a shell of ancient fire that never fades, a permanent background against which all other astronomical events are played out. This pervasive glow ensures that the universe is never truly cold or truly dark, even in its loneliest stretches. It is the ultimate baseline of reality, a foundation of energy that supports the existence of every galaxy and every atom. We are swimming in a sea of ancient light, witnesses to a glow that has been shining since the dawn of time. Groundbreaking theories of cosmic inflation rely heavily on finding extremely specific and elusive polarization patterns hiding within this ancient afterglow. These patterns, known as B-modes, would be the telltale signature of gravitational waves that rippled through the fabric of space in the first trillionth of a second after the Big Bang. If these patterns are found, they will provide the ultimate proof that the universe underwent a period of unimaginably rapid, violent expansion that smoothed out the early chaos and set the stage for the creation of matter. Notice the stillness of your room and the absolute quiet of your surroundings, a peace that was made possible by the incredible smoothing of the universe during this inflationary epoch. Scientists at the Simons Observatory are engaged in a high-stakes search for these microscopic swirls in the ancient light, looking for the physical evidence of the most powerful event in history. This discovery would link the physics of the incredibly small with the physics of the entire universe, proving that the cosmos expanded faster than the speed of light itself. It is a quest for the ultimate origin story, a search for the moment the universe first began to grow. These polarization patterns are the faint, twisted echoes of the most violent expansion imaginable, preserved in the orientation of ancient light waves. We are looking for the fingerprint of the Creator, written in the subtle geometry of the sky. We are effectively staring at the glowing embers of creation that have been slowly and steadily cooling down over billions of eons, from a searing inferno into the cold microwave glow we see today. This radiation is the smoke after the fire, the fading warmth of a blast that was so powerful it created all of space and time in a singular moment. By observing these embers, we gain a profound and visceral sense of the sheer scale and age of the universe we inhabit. The journey of this light is the journey of existence itself, moving from a state of total, energetic unity into the complex and diverse world of galaxies and life. As the universe continues to expand, these embers will continue to cool, eventually fading into even longer and fainter waves until they are lost to the dark forever. We are living in a privileged era where the fire of the beginning is still visible to those who know how to look for it. Staring at the cosmic microwave background is the final act of human observation, reaching the absolute edge of what can be seen. It is the ultimate synthesis of all our knowledge, a final realization that we're made of the same energy that began this journey 14 billion years ago. In these embers, we find the reflection of our own origins, the cold and beautiful light of the start. The cold and beautiful light of the start eventually gives way to the deepest, most terrifying shadows in the modern cosmos, where we have constructed a planetary-scale eye to witness the impossible. This monumental achievement, known as the Event Horizon Telescope, is not a single, isolated physical instrument, but a vast and brilliant network of heavily synchronized radio dishes scattered across the entire surface of our world. By linking these separate facilities through the use of ultra-precise atomic clocks, humanity has effectively transformed the entire Earth into a single, massive magnifying glass, capable of resolving objects millions of light years away. This collective gaze represents the absolute pinnacle of global cooperation, where disparate antennas act as one unified mind to pierce the darkest corners of space. It is a technological triumph that turns our very planet into a witness for the most extreme environments in the universe, proving that our reach can span the globe to touch the infinite. We are no longer limited by the size of a single mountain or the width of a single valley, but can instead harness the geography of the Earth itself. By combining the data from these scattered sentinels, we have created a synthetic aperture that rivals the diameter of the planet, allowing us to see details that were previously hidden in the shroud of the deep. It is a testament to our ingenuity that we can turn the rotation of our world into a tool for sharper vision. We are effectively building a bridge between continents to look into a realm where the laws of physics are pushed to their absolute breaking point. Deep within the most extreme environments on our globe, from the frozen, sun-starved desert at the bottom of the world to the high plateaus of the European continent, separate observatories work in perfect computational harmony. By electronically stitching together the data from these far-flung locations, scientists attain the incredible resolution needed to capture the first ever image of a supermassive black hole. This distance between the sensors provides a baseline long enough to perceive a shape as small as an orange on the surface of the Moon from the vantage point of Earth. It is a staggering feat of geographic integration, where the physical span of our world dictates the sharpness of our cosmic sight. The result is a masterpiece of virtual engineering, proving that we can see the invisible if we are willing to look from every corner of our home at once. We are bridging the gaps between continents to build a bridge into the unknown, using the cold of the poles and the warmth of the inland plains to anchor our sight. This global synthesis allows us to process trillions of bits of data into a single, coherent picture of a reality that exists billions of light years away. We have effectively turned the Earth into a giant digital camera that captures the ghosts of the deep cosmos. Through this network, the world becomes a lens that focuses on the absolute edge of darkness, revealing the hidden contours of the abyss. What we actually perceive in these haunting, glowing images is not the black hole itself, but the chaotic and terrifyingly bright shadow it casts against the blazing matter, falling into its inescapable grasp. The hole is a point of absolute lightless perfection, a void so dense that it traps every photon that crosses its threshold, leaving only a circular silhouette in the centre of a swirling firestorm. This surrounding accretion disk consists of superheated gas and dust, churning at nearly the speed of light, and emitting a violent radiance that illuminates the very edge of non-existence. The contrast between the brilliant golden ring of fire and the silent ink-black centre creates a visual paradox that marks the boundary between our reality and the unknown. We are staring at the ultimate silhouette, the negative space where light goes to die. It is a visual representation of the absolute limit of our physical understanding, showing us a place where gravity is so strong that it consumes the very light it creates. This glowing ring is the result of matter being torn apart and accelerated to impossible speeds, creating a halo of energy that surrounds the ultimate darkness. It is a masterpiece of cosmic violence, captured in the quiet stillness of our digital sensors. We are looking at the end of the road, the final boundary where the light of the stars is extinguished by the weight of the dark. As you lie perfectly still and feel the heavy, comforting rhythm of your own heart, consider that the very concept of a second becomes a fluid and deceptive measure near the edge of these cosmic abysses. Surprisingly, time literally slows down to an agonizing crawl near the event horizon, relative to any observer watching from the safe, distant reaches of our own solar system. To an explorer falling toward the dark, the entire history of the universe might flash before their eyes in a single moment, while to us, they would appear frozen forever in a state of perpetual unmoving descent. This gravitational time dilation stretches the fabric of experience until the distinction between a moment and an eternity completely dissolves. It is a reminder that the clocks of the universe do not all tick with the same heartbeat, and that gravity can bend the very flow of existence into a standstill. Your body is anchored in a world where time moves with a steady, predictable grace, yet you are connected to a reality where the seconds can be stretched until they snap. This bending of the timeline is one of the most profound paradoxes of the deep, showing us that even the most fundamental aspects of our lives are subject to the extreme forces of the stars. We are swimming in a sea of time that is never as simple as it seems. In the presence of a black hole, the future and the past become entangled in a way that defies all human experience. Any physical information, from the composition of an atom to the memory of a star that passes the point of no return, is seemingly lost from the observable universe forever. This profound loss of data creates a deep and unsettling paradox in quantum mechanics, as it suggests that the history of an object can be completely erased from the fabric of reality. If the information is truly destroyed, then the fundamental laws of cause and effect that govern our science would be rendered invalid, leaving us in a universe without a past. We are left staring into a void that not only swallows matter, but also challenges the continuity of history itself. This information paradox has puzzled the greatest minds for decades, forcing us to reconsider the very nature of how the universe stores its records. It suggests that the black hole might be a cosmic shredder, turning the ordered information of the stars into a chaotic and unreachable soup. The struggle to resolve this conflict is at the heart of our search for a unified theory of everything. We are looking for a way to save the data from the dark, to prove that nothing is ever truly forgotten by the cosmos. It is a battle for the memory of the stars, a quest to ensure that every event remains part of the grand tapestry of time. If we were to look closer at the physical reality of approaching the singularity, we would find a terrifying process of transformation known as spaghettification. The difference in gravitational pull between an object's head and its feet becomes so extreme that any physical matter is violently stretched into a single, microscopic stream of individual atoms. This relentless, tidal stretching is a final, brutal stripping away of all structure, reducing the most complex suns or explorers into a long, thin ribbon of subatomic debris. It is a physical manifestation of gravity's absolute power, where the geometry of space itself dictates the destruction of all form. Even the strongest materials ever forged would be powerless against this lengthening of the void, becoming part of the silent inward flow of the infinite. This process turns the solid world into a liquid-like stream of matter, moving toward a center that we can never truly see. We are witnessing the ultimate distortion of the physical body, a stretching that defies all human experience and intuition. It is the final act of a journey into the dark, where the individual becomes part of the whole. This is the ultimate fate of anything that dares to touch the center of a cosmic monster, a transformation into the infinite. Take a slow, deep breath and feel the quiet stability of your surroundings, while far across the ancient void, some feeding black holes power objects so bright they outshine entire galaxies. These ancient quasars are fueled by the violent consumption of massive clouds of gas, converting matter into pure energy with an efficiency that dwarfs the nuclear fusion of ordinary stars. A single one of these roaring beacons can glow with the intensity of hundreds of billions of suns, making it visible from the absolute edge of the observable universe. They are the most powerful persistent lights in existence, markers of a time when the young cosmos was a place of extreme, unbridled growth and destruction. Despite their distance, their light reaches us as a reminder of the staggering energy hidden within the dark centers of the stars. We are seeing the light of a monster that has been dead for billions of years, yet its brilliance still dominates the night sky. This radiance is the result of a black hole feasting on its neighborhood, creating a jet of energy that can span millions of light years across the empty space. It is a brilliant, terrifying reminder that the dark can be the source of the most intense light in the entire universe. We are the witnesses to this ancient galactic feast, seeing the remnants of a power that we can barely comprehend. Surprisingly, the ultimate dark of these abysses may not be as permanent or as eternal as we once believed, according to the startling mathematics of the quantum world. Hawking radiation suggests that black holes are actually capable of a slow, ghostly leakage of energy, meaning they are destined to evaporate completely over unimaginably long trillions of years. This microscopic process of emission means that even the most massive monsters in the universe will eventually vanish, leaving behind nothing but a fading echo in the silent vacuum. It is a slow-motion vanishing act on a timescale so vast it makes the current age of the universe seem like a single fleeting heartbeat. Even the most powerful voids are subject to the slow, methodical erosion of time, proving that nothing in the cosmos is truly forever. This evaporation is a quiet, subtle victory of the quantum world over the brute force of gravity, a reminder that the small can eventually defeat the large. The black hole, once thought to be a permanent tomb, is actually a temporary resident of the deep space, subject to the same laws of entropy as everything else. It will eventually shrink and disappear, returning its stolen energy to the void in a final, invisible puff of radiation. We are living in an era of giants that will eventually become ghosts in the infinite night. Observatories currently studying these extreme and violent regions are testing the very breaking points of Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity, searching for the slightest deviation from his predictions. Near the crushing gravity of a black hole, the laws of physics are tested to their absolute limits, providing a unique laboratory where the fabric of space-time is warped more severely than anywhere else in the universe. Scientists look for imperfections in the shadow of the hole that might reveal a deeper, more complex layer of reality beyond our current understanding. So far, the ancient equations have held firm, but we continue to stare into the dark in hopes of finding the first crack in the foundation of modern science. It is a high-stakes search for the next revolution, conducted at the edge of the abyss, where the known world ends. We are using the most extreme objects in the cosmos to verify the most profound ideas of the human mind, seeking the truth in the heart of darkness. Each success for the theory is a testament to the power of human logic, yet we secretly hope for a failure that will point the way toward a new and even more profound truth. We are the testers of the ultimate laws, pushing against the boundaries of what is possible in a universe that is far larger than our thoughts. In the presence of the black hole, we are looking for the future of our species and the true nature of our physical reality. The deeper our telescopes look into these cosmic voids, the less certain we become about the fundamental and underlying nature of reality itself. We find ourselves standing on the edge of a world where space and time are no longer reliable constants, but are instead fluid, warped, and potentially illusory. The paradoxes found at the event horizon suggest that our universe might be a hologram or a projection, where the information of a three-dimensional volume is stored on a two-dimensional surface. This realization forces us to question if the solid, tangible world we inhabit is merely the surface of a much deeper and more mysterious ocean of existence. In the silence of the black hole, we find not an answer, but a profound and beautiful question about what it truly means to exist in a sea of stars. We are the residents of a reality that is far stranger than we can ever imagine, floating in a void that is full of potential. Every observation brings us closer to a truth that might completely overturn our understanding of everything we hold dear. We are looking into the dark to see ourselves, finding the reflection of our own uncertainty in the voids of the stars. It is a journey that ends where it began, in the heart of the unknown, looking at the shadows of our own history. We construct monumental eyes of mirrored glass, woven metal, and frozen crystalline structures to look outward into the dark, only to arrive at the staggering realization that the universe is finally observing itself through our curious minds. This grand synthesis represents the final crowning wonder of our long journey, bridging the profound gap between the observer and the observed in a single, philosophical moment of absolute clarity. We are the neurons of the cosmos, the consciousness that allows the stars to contemplate their own violent birth and their eventual cold evaporation. By building these vast and technical monuments, we have created a way for the universe to know its own history and to feel the rhythmic drumming of its own heartbeat. It is a profound and humbling realization that our search for knowledge is actually the universe's own search for self-awareness through the medium of biological life. We are the eyes of the infinite, the silent and patient witnesses to the majesty of the deep, finally looking back at the source of our own existence. Deep within the most complex structures of our own biology, the same atoms forged in the hearts of distant dying stars have come together to create a conscious witness. We construct monumental eyes of mirrored glass, woven metal, and frozen crystalline structures to look outward into the dark, only to arrive at the staggering realization that the universe is finally observing itself through our curious minds. This grand synthesis turns our scientific curiosity into a homecoming, where we realize we're not mere spectators, but the very consciousness of the cosmos looking home. This quiet room is now a sanctuary of absolute stillness, a place where the heavy weight of the day can finally be set aside. Every light has been dimmed, and the world outside has faded into a distant memory. You're safe here, anchored by your resting form and the silence that holds you. Surprisingly, the body begins its own slow, rhythmic descent into rest, starting with the very tips of your toes. Feel the tension draining away from your feet, allowing them to become heavy and warm as they settle into the soft fabric of the bed. The muscles in your calves and thighs are now completely surrendering to the pull of gravity. If we were to look closer at the sensation of your hands, we would find a deep stillness in every finger. Your arms feel like heavy weights of velvet, resting motionlessly at your sides. The rhythmic expansion of your chest is the only movement, a steady anchor for your drifting thoughts. The tension in your shoulders and neck begins to melt away like ice in a gentle spring sun. Your jaw softens, and the small muscles around your face finally relax their hold on the day. Your head feels light and calm, as if every worry has been replaced by a soft silver silence. Everything in this room is designed for your comfort and your complete peace. The air is cool and still, flowing into your lungs with a natural, effortless ease that requires no thought. You're held in a cocoon of softness, where the boundaries between the place and your resting form begin to gently blur. Each exhale brings you closer to a state of total, blissful surrender. The pillow is a soft cloud beneath your head, inviting you to let go of the last fragments of the day. You're safe in this quiet, anchored by the familiar scent of the linens and the heavy warmth of the blankets. The rhythm of your breathing is a slow, steady tide that pulls you further into the silence. Every muscle is now completely slack, every nerve is quiet, and every cell is resting. This place is a temple of sleep, a setting where the light has faded and only the stillness remains. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.